Chapter 81 Martial King Lan Shao. Chapter 81 Martial King Lan Shao. Just as the people of the Tianqi Empire were about to fly into a rage, more than 10 students of the Walingwu Academy rushed down the mountain in panic. One of the students shouted, "Master Wei, bad news. Young Master Wei was killed by a demonic beast and the Void Spirit Stone was taken away by a demonic beast a euro." At this point, the student realized that something was wrong. Master Wei's expression was very interesting, especially when he heard that his son had died. He could not believe it, but when the student told him about the Void Spirit Stone later, it made him flustered and exasperated. The crowd went into an uproar. Just now, Master Wei had said that he had never seen a Void Spirit Stone before, but the student in front of him was talking about the Void Spirit Stone and Wei Shuankan. Yang Shiyu sneered and said, "You reap what you sow. The Void Spirit Stone is extremely precious and contains an extremely strong spiritual energy, so it can attract very strong demon beasts. Since Wei Shuankong is dead, his followers, General Yuan and the others, won't be able to survive either. For these 10 over students to be able to survive and come here, they are truly fortunate." Quote, "What about Yuner?" the Duke of Yan asked loudly as he walked over, his expression ugly. "Dead a euro, they're all dead. We were called by General Yuan to patrol the forest, so we weren't attacked by that giant tiger. When we arrived, only Yuan Yanying was still alive. She was sitting on the ground crying." The student's face was filled with fear. Master Wei and Duke Yan were instantly aggrieved. Yang Shiyu sneered as she gloated, and said to Master Wei, "If you weren't trying to snatch the Void Spirit Stone and push me away, they wouldn't have all been killed by the demon beasts. This is retribution." "Shut up," Master Wei roared. "Even though we lost a Void Spirit Stone, with so many people dying because of it, my heart is much more balanced." Yang Shiyu laughed and was not afraid of Master Wei at all. Master Wei and Duke Yan were both furious, but they didn't dare to say anything because even if they worked together, they still wouldn't be Yang Shishi's match. What's more, Principal Zhang was also here. On the surface, Master Wei was a gentleman, but everyone knew what kind of person he truly was. There were quite a number of people who had suffered under Master Wei's hands. After they learned that Wei Shuankan had died, they saw it all in their eyes and felt great in their hearts. Wei Shuankong and Yan Yun cultivated demonic arts, so there was no way that Master Wei and Duke Yan would not know. Qin Yun had no evidence and did not say it out loud. The 2 old foxes would definitely refuse to admit it. Everyone gathered in front of the gate of the Blue Star Palace, sinking into silence. The Star Palace could be perfectly preserved, so he felt that there might be someone inside. As expected, the blue jade door slowly opened and a group of people walked out. They were all wearing blue robes with patterns on them. The middle-aged man in the lead wore a darker blue robe. Behind the middle-aged man, there were also more than 10 youths. Their blue robes were much dimmer than before. The middle-aged man's cultivation was not very high, he was only at the 7th level of the martial body realm. However, when he scanned the crowd, his eyes were filled with disdain and arrogance, as if he was looking down on everyone here. However, when he saw Yang Shiyu, his eyes revealed a strange light. "Our Blue Spirit Star Palace has come this time because we have received orders from the Martial King Lan Shao to impart his martial arts." The blue-robed middle-aged man stretched out his voice, looking proud. He looked at the crowd and said, "The Lan Shao Martial King was born in the borders of the 9 Desolate Land. He has learned martial arts since he entered the Martial Desolate Land and passed down his martial arts to build several martial academies." When Qin Yun heard this, he was secretly excited. He never expected that the legend was true. In the ancient legends, the boundless earth illuminated by the 9 suns was divided into 9 wastelands. The martial wasteland had the greatest number of humans. The martial way was flourishing and the spirit energy of the 9 suns was dense. It was able to produce many rare medicinal herbs as well as various heavenly and earthly treasures. Their current location was at the edge of the 9 wastelands. It was a place where the spiritual energy was the thinnest and the resources were scarce. It also made it difficult for martial practitioners to enter the martial Dao realm. Principal Zhang of the Hua Spirit Martial School took out a jade token and walked over. He said, "I am a vice principal of the Hua Spirit Martial School. The other vice principals of the Martial Arts Academy took out their jade tokens and walked up. The chief dean was not here, and he seemed to be quite mysterious. Those who can reach the 7th level of the martial body will be able to come to the Blue Spirit Star Palace to cultivate, regardless of their age. After the middle-aged man finished speaking, he looked at the young students and said, "As long as you are a student of the Martial Arts Academy, it is your fortuitous opportunity to witness the descent of the Star Palace. Therefore, our Blue Spirit Star Palace will bestow you with a low-grade profound rank cultivation technique." The first move he made was the low-grade mysterious rank cultivation technique. This caused all the students to be wild with joy. The blue-robed middle-aged man waved his hand and had the youths beside him take out a book and distribute it to the more than 50 students from the Martial Arts Academy. These students all came from a spiritual-grade martial arts academy like the Wa Spirit Martial Arts Academy. Their highest cultivation was only at the 6th level of the martial body realm. Qin Yun and a group of students walked over. Stretching their necks to take a look, they realized that quite a number of the books were identical. They were extremely new and looked as though they had just been printed. Lan Shao was born at the edge of the 9 desolate lands, so he had a deep affection for this region. He had been developing martial arts here for many years, otherwise, the people here would have fallen behind in their path of martial arts. This time, the scale of imparting martial arts was even greater and he directly got himself a star palace. However, everyone felt that it wasn't that simple and thought that there must be some other purpose. When these youths distributed cultivation techniques, they would ask for spirit vein and martial spirit to use different cultivation techniques depending on the situation. These Blue Spirit Star Palace disciples all had arrogant expressions on their faces. It seemed that they looked down on the students of the Martial Arts Academy, even though their cultivation levels weren't high. "What spiritual pulse are you?" a youth asked Qin Yun with an extremely arrogant tone. "Yang spiritual pulse," Qin Yun said. When the young man heard this, he could not help but be surprised for a moment before he burst out laughing. The other young men also followed suit and laughed. Qin Yun frowned. He knew that these people looked down on a single spirit vein, so he turned and left. He did not want any of the cultivation techniques. "You only have one spirit vein and you want to learn the martial arts of our Blue Spirit Star Palace. Wishful thinking. But, since you can come here, I'll give you this cultivation technique. Then, this is the supreme mental cultivation method that I, Du Yayan, have bestowed to you." The youth mocked with a sneer. He took out 2 pieces of old yellowing paper and crumpled them into a ball before smashing it at Qin Yun's head. Qin Yun turned around and caught the ball of paper. With a trace of anger between his brows, he said, "With disciples like you in Blue Spirit Star Palace, it can be seen that your overall level of martial arts is only mediocre." When Master Wei and the others saw this scene, they were secretly delighted. Qin Yun was a thorn in their side. Now that they were up against such a colossus like Blue Spirit Star Palace, they were gloating. Duan Qian and Principal Zhang hurriedly walked over to prevent the conflict. Anger was written all over Du Yayuan's face as he hollered, "How dare a fellow who doesn't know his place make fun of our Blue Spirit Star Palace?" After saying that, he spat on Qin Yun's clothes. Qin Yun frowned and said with a sneer, "This is the quality of a Blue Spirit Star Palace disciple. I've finally experienced it." As he spoke, he took off his clothes, which were covered in saliva, and threw them on the ground, revealing a disgusting expression. "It's really dirtying my clothes." Chapter 82 Star Palace Disciples. Yang Shiyu was just watching by the side. There was no need for her to interfere in such matters. Furthermore, she wanted to see how Qin Yun would teach the loathsome Du Yayuan a lesson. Du Yayuan did not expect the person in front of him, who only had a bloodline, to dare mock him. This was because there were many powerful experts here, so it was not good to help. After all, he did not know who Qin Yun's backer was. He could only sneer and mock. "A guy from your line of descent should be despised in the first place. You thought that you had painstakingly trained to the 5th level of the martial body, but you did not know that your foundation was weak. I hate people like you who should honestly accept their fate but feel conceited and proud." Quote. "Why, are you unconvinced? I'll give you 10 years. After 10 years, you can come challenge me. If I lose to you, I'm willing to be your slave." Ha 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 a euro. Qin Yun sighed gently and said, There's no need for 10 years. Let's do it now. Duan Qian hurried over and whispered, Qin Yun, they are disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace. Their strength is unfathomable. Du Yayan smiled and said, young man, listen to the advice of your elders obediently. I can wait 10 years for you. Qin Yun shook his head and said, 10 years is too late. A person with a shameless mouth like yours can only live 2 years at most. I'm afraid I won't be able to wait for that day. Let's do it now. I can't wait to smash your dirty mouth. Quote. The Blue Spirit Star Palace disciples roared with laughter because in their eyes, the bloodline's Qin Yun could not even withstand a single blow. He had actually said such arrogant words. Everyone was secretly anticipating the match between Qin Yun and Du Yayan. Under normal circumstances, everyone believed that Qin Yun would definitely win. But now, he faced off against a disciple from the Blue Spirit Star Palace who had inherited the true martial arts legacy of Lan Shao. His talent was definitely not ordinary, and he could even rival a 7th-level martial body. The middle-aged man from Blue Spirit Star Palace chuckled and said, young people are all like this. Let them spar when they are young. This way, you'll be able to see the strength of our Blue Spirit Star Palace. Then don't blame me for being impolite. Du Yayuan sneered proudly and charged straight at Qin Yun. A golden mist flowed out from his arms, condensing into 2 golden blades. One look and it was obvious that he had a golden blade martial spirit. This was a martial spirit that was not weak. Moreover, its inner energy was strong and overbearing. It caused many old people at the 7th or 8th martial body level to secretly sigh in admiration. Du Yayuan came over and hacked down with his blade-like palms. In the blink of an eye, he hacked down with a speed so fast that it caused people to shiver. This was only the cultivation of the 6th level of the martial body. What was astonishing was that Qin Yun's speed was not slow either. Furthermore, he had used his hand as a blade to block Du Yayuan's dual-blade strikes. Such a swift and powerful counterattack made even great Master Wei and Du Qian exclaim in their hearts. Du Yayuan never thought that this person who only had one bloodline in front of him would actually have such an impressive martial skill. He was able to block his confident attack. Without waiting for Du Yayuan to strike a second time, Qin Yun's palm struck out. His inner force surged out as he slashed out. With a shua sound, the blade's energy splattered. Crash. Asterisk. Du Yayuan's blue robe had been torn apart by Qin Yun's wind slasher saber, leaving a long bloody wound on his chest. He had actually been struck. Boom. In the instant that Du Yayuan was alarmed, Qin Yun struck out with flaming fist. The flaming punch landed on Du Yayuan's mouth and sent out a burst of flames. His teeth were shattered and he vomited blood. His face was badly burned. Everyone could not help but be astounded. Qin Yun had only used a single hand from the beginning to the end to injure a Blue Spirit Star Palace disciple. From this, it could be seen that his strength had improved greatly. The blue-robed middle-aged man was also surprised. Previously, he had looked down on the warriors at the edge of the 9 desolate domain and thought that they were only mediocre. But now, his disciple had been defeated by them. Insolent. It's only a simple spar, yet he's actually so ruthless. In order to regain his face, the blue-robed middle-aged man flew over and quickly rushed at Qin Yun. He punched out. No one had expected that, as an elder, he would actually make a move against a junior. Qin Yun felt a powerful suppressive feeling. Anxious, he punched out. His fist instantly turned into an iron fist that burned red. An explosive light shot out like an arrow towards the blue-robed middle-aged man. It's the great perfection stage of the flame light fist. The fist weighs 1,000 jin, and the burst of light is like an arrow. Principal Zhang exclaimed. Qin Yun had only been in contact with flaming light fist for a short while, but he had already learned perfection. The others were also shocked. Although the blazing light fist was only a high-grade martial skill, it was not easy at all to cultivate it to the great perfection stage. Qin Yun's fiery red iron fist was extremely terrifying. When it collided with the blue-robed middle-aged man, his face was filled with shock. Boom. The 2 fists collided, producing a loud sound as the shockwave rose up into the air. The sleeves on Qin Yun and the blue-robed middle-aged man's arms were instantly torn apart. The flesh on their arms was lacerated. The blue-robed middle-aged man had the most severe injuries on his arm. One could even see the exposed bones. This scene left everyone dumbfounded, especially when a golden thread appeared on Qin Yun's arm that was split apart. It was especially shocking. Someone exclaimed, "That is a dark yellow meridian. The mysterious heart grass has allowed him to cultivate the black yellow heart sutra and cast it into a dark yellow meridian." This was also the reason why the mysterious heart grass was so valuable. It was because it could help a person cultivate the mysterious yellow heart scripture. Even if his muscles were severely injured, the meridians in his body would not break because of this. Although Qin Yun's arm was heavily injured, his meridians were not broken. He could still circulate his inner force and quickly heal his injuries, allowing his muscles to quickly heal. At the same time, he could suppress the pain and stop the bleeding. Yang Shiyu came beside Qin Yun and looked angrily at the blue-robed middle-aged man. She shouted coldly, "Do you believe that I won't kill you now?" Du Yayuan sat paralyzed on the ground with a face full of fear. The clan members he had looked down on were actually this terrifying. "Everyone, let's discuss this properly. There's no need to make things difficult for these outer sect disciples. They are only responsible for helping you cleanse the world." Quote. An elegant old man dressed in a white robe floated out from the door. He had a face full of smiles, and he looked kind and amiable. When the old man came out, Principal Zhang and Yang Shiyu both frowned. It could be seen that this scholarly old man was very strong. "I am the third elder of the Eastern Palace, Shui Yiwei from Blue Spirit Star Palace." He bowed to everyone in a very polite manner, then looked at Du Yayan and the group of people, and said, "They are from the Western Palace. As they are closest to the door, they were the first to exit." Quote. "So it's just a bunch of watchdogs. No wonder they look down on us." Yang Shiyu sneered, her words made those few people look angry. Shui Yiwei looked at Qin Yun and said with a smile, "My friend, you are quite strong and your martial arts are quite impressive as well. Come, this is what you deserve." Quote. He took a book from the blue-robed youth and was about to give it to Qin Yun. "No need, they've already given us the Blue Spirit Star Palace's martial arts." Qin Yun raised the ball of paper in his hand and opened it. There were a total of 2 of them. Each of them had an obscure incantation written on it. Shui Yiwei shook his head and laughed, "That was Grandmaster Lan Shao's silly work. He used it to tease us. He even said that he was the one who created the most powerful martial arts. It took us several thousands of years to realize that we were being played." Qin Yun kept the ball of paper and looked at Yang Shiyu. He said, "Teacher, let's go back first. We still have important matters to attend to." He had previously obtained the colorless fruit from Wei Shuanken, so he had to quickly cure Ding Tianchun and his son. Chapter 83 End of Term Assessment. The others were invited to the Blue Spirit Star Palace to discuss the inheritance of martial arts. Qin Yun felt that this matter was not that simple. There would definitely be an exchange of benefits. President Zhang followed Qin Yun and Yang Shiyu back to the Hua Spirit Martial Academy together. The 3 of them were on their way back when Qin Yun suddenly said, "President, I found the colorless fruit from Wei Shuanken." Upon hearing this, Principal Zhang abruptly stopped. Ding Tianchun was a loyal and honest man who was extremely responsible to others. Now, he and his son had been poisoned and almost died. Principal Zhang asked with a sinking tone, "Last time's experiential learning, what happened with you and Professor Ding?" The reason for his injury is definitely not that simple. Quote, "He and I met a quick ape. It was a demonic beast with an owner. Later on, it was killed by Professor Ding." Qin Yun sighed and said, "Professor Ding said that this matter is not simple. He said that he would not allow me to speak carelessly and that he would give me the swift ape. Do you have a beast collar?" Principal Zhang's expression turned cold as he thought of many things. Qin Yun took out the beast collar and handed it over. Principal Zhang took it and looked at it, and said angrily, "It's really that old rogue Master Wei. Let's first go back and cure Professor Ding of his poison." Quote. Yang Shiyu revealed a face of worry, and asked, "Principal, you came here, did anyone look after them?" Principal Zhang said, "Of course there is. The strongest people in our Hua Lingwu Academy are watching them. Don't worry. The strongest person in the Hua Lingwu Academy was, of course, the principal, who rarely showed himself. Now that they had finally come out, it was highly likely that they were here because of the Blue Spirit Star Palace. €1. The antidote would take some time. After handing the colorless fruit to Dean Zhong, Qin Yun returned to the bamboo forest residence with Yang Shiyu. You still have a purple gold flying spirit stone in your hand. Although it is useless now, you must not sell it. Yang Shiyu warned Qin Yun seriously. Also, do not tell anyone else about us obtaining the Soulflight Stone. Something must have gone wrong with the Blue Spirit Star Palace when they came here this time, which was why such a precious item flew out. In short, the arrival of Blue Spirit Star Palace has a great impact on the structure and areas of this place. Quote. After she finished speaking, she hurriedly entered the room to cultivate. Qin Yun hurriedly returned to his room and took out the ball of paper that Du Yayan had thrown at him. Although the paper was crumpled, it was obvious that the two pieces of paper were very old. There were two chants written inside, both of them very strange. He recognized every single word, but he did not understand them after connecting them together. There was no way to figure out the meaning behind each word. Shui Yi Wei said that this was a martial art created by Lan Xiao, and it was used to tease them. It has been around for thousands of years. Is it really just for teasing? Qin Yun repeated the two chants as he frowned deeply. I don't understand at all. Star Mantra, Sun Monastery, Tranquil Heart, Spirit Condensation Star €1. What the hell is this? He read out the first sentence, and after some thought, he realized that he could not understand it at all. All he could tell was that it was related to the stars and the sun. Let's not worry about it for now, I'll go cultivate. Qin Yun had cultivated the Heart Sutra. He was still lacking the soul scripture from the three great scriptures. He needed to cultivate it all to be able to break through to the 6th level of the martial body. One had to use their psychic power to condense the soul scripture, and that consumed a lot of psychic power. It was a good thing that he had the 9 Yang spirit that could absorb the 9 Sun's spirit energy to refine and quickly recover his spirit energy €1. After 2 days, he only felt that his spiritual force had increased a little, but it was still a great distance away from forming the soul scripture. The higher you go, the harder it is to improve. No wonder young people who have stepped into the 6th level of the martial body would be valued, because that is not easy to do in the first place. Qin Yun sighed. For example, as a teacher, Ding Tianchun was only at the 7th level of the martial body realm. Many martial artists were middle-aged and only at the 7th level. Therefore, cultivating the martial Tao required a very high level of talent. Like Yang Shiyu, she was now at the 9th level of the martial body. Xiao Yu Lan was already at the 8th level, and Qin Zhengfeng had also stepped into the 7th level. Their futures could be seen. Don't be impatient, it's very easy for you to go berserk. Qin Yun took a few deep breaths before he left the room to relax. This was something Yang Shiyu often told him. Yang Shiyu was dancing with her sword in the yard. She was wearing a blue dress with slender legs and a long skirt that fluttered in the wind. Her figure was extremely moving, making people's eyes captivate. It was Qin Yun's first time seeing Yang Shiyu's sword dance. He sighed in admiration and stood to the side, enjoying the sight. He smiled and said, "Teacher, your sword art is very agile. It seems that you're in quite a good mood." Yang Shiyu stopped, sat down by a stone table, and daintily smiled as she said, "Of course." After obtaining the purple gold spirit stone, her martial spirit had been successfully upgraded to the purple gold moon martial spirit. His strength had increased by a large amount. How could he be in a bad mood? "Teacher, can you understand these chants?" Qin Yun took out 2 crumpled pieces of paper. Yang Shiyu looked at it, shook her head and said, "I don't understand, are you serious?" From the looks of it, these incantations are not real. This must have been something that the Lanshao Martial King was playing with back then. Quote. Qin Yun curled his lips. "I just wanted to give it a try." "Oh right, Professor Ding and his child are getting better, right?" Quote. "They are getting better. They left the Waling Wu Academy and will never be teachers again. This should be to protect their children." Yang Shiyu sighed. "It's a pity that you couldn't see him again." She had come out yesterday and many things had happened in the past 2 days that Qin Yun did not know. He was listening to her earnestly. The Blue Spirit Star Palace worked together with many martial academies, aristocratic families, and empires. Anyone above the 7th level of the martial body realm would be able to study in the Blue Spirit Star Palace. Blue Spirit Star Palace also recruited outstanding young martial artists. It was said that Xiao Yulan and Qin Zhengfeng had already been invited. Yang Shiyu's expression turned serious. Zhang Lang has a legendary martial spirit and was chosen by the Blue Spirit Star Palace. Yesterday, he was invited to the Blue Spirit Star Palace. The people from Blue Spirit Star Palace said that they would guide him for a period of time and help him build a firm foundation. When he reaches the 7th level of the martial body realm, he will go to Blue Spirit Star Palace and become an official disciple. Qin Yun felt that there was nothing to worry about and said with a smile, "I'm not worried about him. Isn't it just a legendary martial soul?" His oscillating martial spirit was also a legendary martial spirit, and it was a mysterious black rank one at that. Yang Shiyu said, "The problem is, in another month, it will be the end of term exam. With Blue Spirit Star Palace's power, he'll be able to propel Zhang Lang forward by leaps and bounds within a month. At that time, he'll be your rival." It was only then that Qin Yun remembered that he had entered the Waling Wu Academy for nearly half a year. The semester was about to end, and at that time, Yang Shiyu would have to leave him. Thinking of this matter, his heart couldn't help but feel depressed. Yang Shiyu smiled and said, "If you step into the 6th level of the martial body and pass the 3 mysterious academies examination, you will be able to go to the Star Zon Wu Academy. If you catch up to my cultivation level, we might even be able to become apprentice brothers and sisters from the same sect." Quote. Chapter 84 Drum Measurement. T. Yang Shiyu's words also showed that she would enter the Blue Spirit Star Palace in the future. With her talent, she could easily become a disciple of the Blue Spirit Star Palace. Qin Yun did not have a good impression of Blue Spirit Star Palace. The main reason was because he had encountered a disciple like Du Yayuan. "Teacher, I will definitely strive for the best results and obtain the best resources in the end-of-term exam." Qin Yun was very confident. "If I can perform exceptionally well, it is said that I will be able to obtain the personal guidance of the principal. I can even obtain a martial arts technique." Yang Shiyu also had confidence in Qin Yun. Amongst this batch of new students, he was the strongest. Qin Yun suddenly recalled something that Yang Shiyu had mentioned before. He asked, "Teacher, you said earlier that Blue Spirit Star Palace would be stationed in the martial academies." Yang Shiyu nodded. Blue Spirit Star Palace gives each martial arts school a lot of resources, so each martial arts academy agrees to move in. If everything goes according to plan, there will be people from the Blue Spirit Star Palace at the beginning of the next semester. They will be holding important positions in each of the martial academies. Quote, "You don't have to worry. The headmaster told me before that the Blue Spirit Palace is divided into 4 palaces. The 4 palaces are at odds with each other, and there are fights between the 2 palaces. The heavy spirit jade, flying spirit stone, and ethereal stone that they had obtained had flown out during the battle." Qin Yun thought of starting the final exam in a month's time and immediately going into seclusion to cultivate. He had to cultivate in depth before he could condense his soul scripture. If one's martial arts was improved, their strength would also increase by a lot. The reason why he had the advantage in numerous martial arts competitions was because he had a very good grasp of martial arts. Although other people's martial skills were of a high rank, they were at most at the initial stage. They could not display the power of their inner strength more. His martial arts were not of a high level, but he could grasp it to the great perfection or even great perfection. He could dig up the potential power of inner force and burst it out with a very strong power. Many students were preparing for the final exam. If they couldn't pass, they would have to leave the Waling Wu Academy. One must know that many students consume a large amount of family resources in order to enter the Waling Martial Arts Academy. If they were expelled from the Waling Martial Arts Academy, they would be despised by the clan behind them, and would never be able to lift up their heads again. A month passed by quickly, especially for those who were cultivating all day. They were completely unaware of the passage of time. Over the past month, Qin Yun had cultivated his explosive force to perfection. The power of the perfect chi explosion technique was very terrifying. The energy of the chi explosion was like thunder. In this period of time, he had sparred with Yang Shiyu many times, so his battle prowess had greatly improved. Zhang Lang just returned from the Blue Spirit Star Palace. His progress was very fast, going from the 5th level of the martial body to the 6th level. There were many people who questioned the strength of the Blue Spirit Star Palace before, but now they all want to enter. It looks like the Blue Spirit Star Palace has also used Zhang Lang as their name and nurtured him well. Yang Shiyu returned from outside and told Qin Yun the latest news. Zhang Lang possessed a legendary martial soul and his spirit vein wasn't bad either, so it was natural for him to be valued. However, no one had expected the Blue Spirit Star Palace to have the ability to help Zhang Lang break through to the 6th level of the martial body realm within a month. Qin Yun was at the stage where he cultivated the soul scripture. Only by passing this stage could he attempt to break through to the 6th level of the martial body realm. Therefore, it was extremely difficult for him to advance to the 6th level of the martial body. Yang Shiyu patted Qin Yun on the shoulder and said with a chuckle, "Stay calm and don't feel too pressured. Xiao Lang is also at the 6th level of the martial body, but he is not your opponent. The power of Zhang Lang lies in his sound wave martial spirit. Just pay attention to one thing. Quote, if I were to compete with him, I would need to be extremely careful of the sound waves." Qin Yun nodded. The powerful sound waves were able to create tremors. The sound wave also relied on vibration to spread. He felt that his vibrating strength should be able to resist the sound wave. A euro. Within the Walling Martial Arts Academy, the largest training field was located in the front of the Martial Arts Academy. It was extremely spacious and bustling with noise and excitement early in the morning. Yang Shiyu and Qin Yun were dressed in simple white attire as they came to the training grounds together. Many students were here, preparing for the final exam. When they saw Qin Yun, they whispered to each other, "There will definitely be a martial arts match in the end-of-term exam." Amongst the freshmen, Qin Yun and Zhang Lang were the strongest, so the final battle would definitely be between them. Quote, Qin Yun is still at the 5th level of the martial body, right? Although he had defeated Xiao Lang before, he had only used weapons and a large number of talismans. These things are not allowed to be used in the martial arts competition of our Walling Martial Arts School. If Qin Yun did not use weapons or spirit runes, he would definitely be crushed by the waves of the river. Quote, the sound wave martial spirit is a legendary martial spirit, but it is also an extremely violent martial spirit. It is said that anyone who had fought with Zhang Lang before would have extremely miserable injuries and deaths. Zhang Lang has trained in the Blue Spirit Star Palace before. He must have mastered a profound sonic wave martial art and is even stronger. Once Zhang Lang defeated Qin Yun, he would be able to make Blue Spirit Star Palace even more famous. Therefore, he would definitely put in a lot of effort for him. The freshmen gathered together and began the first round of the end-of-term assessment. The first round of the exam was to test the strength of one's inner strength. The rule was that the students who took the exam had to heavily strike a custom-made beast skin drum. A special stone was placed on the surface of the leather drum. The stronger the inner force, the stronger the drum sound. The special stone on the leather drum would rise higher and higher to determine the strength of the inner force. The vibration caused by your drum beats requires you to raise the rock to 100 meters before it is considered qualified. If you enter the top 3, you will be rewarded with elixirs or crystal coins, starting now. An old man came and announced loudly. Qin Yun and the other students began to queue up, waiting to beat the drum. There were at least 3 lines, and Zhang Lang was in another row. Boom! A student hit the drum, producing a dull sound. The rock on the drum immediately rose up and then stopped in the air. On the old referee's shoulder, a parrot that could speak human language immediately flew up to measure. The parrot was a spirit bird. Not only could it speak human language, it could also determine the exact height. After the parrot flew down, it shouted in a hoarse voice, 95 meters, not qualified, not qualified. The expression on the student's face suddenly changed. He was extremely dejected and almost cried out. Upon seeing this, the other students started to worry secretly in their hearts. This was because they were the same as the other student. They were both only at the 4th level of the martial body realm, and were most likely unqualified. Amongst the freshmen, there were only a few that were able to step into the 5th level of the martial body realm. Roo. Drum beats sounded out as batches of students tested the strength of their inner strength. After testing over a dozen of them, only half of them passed. Boom. A loud sound suddenly rang out. The specially made stone on the giant drum rose up high, definitely exceeding 100 meters. With a single glance, he knew that the person was at the 5th level of the martial body realm. 800 meters, 800 meters. The parrot and the spirit bird flew down from above and said. This made many of the freshmen envious. Many students at the 4th level of the martial body realm could only barely cover 100 meters. It could be seen that the strength of the inner strength at the 5th level of the martial body was much stronger than that at the 4th level. It's the Zhang. A person suddenly shouted in shock. Zhang Lang was at the 6th level of the martial body. His inner strength was definitely not weak. Everyone was looking forward to seeing how strong he was. Chapter 85 Strongest Freshman. Zhang Lang was wearing a set of blue brocade robes that were a bit similar to those worn by the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace. He walked over with an arrogant expression, his entire body exuding a sense of pride. Amongst the new students, he was the one with the highest cultivation. Everyone felt that he had the ability to be arrogant. Zhang Lang struck out with his fist with great strength and ferociously smashed onto the huge drum. The deafening sound of the drum exploded out. Those who were slightly closer to the drum could feel their blood roiling within their bodies. Everyone's eardrums suddenly buzzed as they looked towards the sky. The stone on the drum was knocked flying very high, and the human eye could no longer see it clearly. Only people with good eyesight would be able to see a dot. The parrot immediately flew up and only descended a short while later. 5,000, 5,000, cried the parrot, and seemed very surprised. All the students were stunned. Even the older students, who were at the 5th level of the martial body realm, were deeply shocked by the strength of this inner force. This is the power of the 6th level of the martial body realm. I've heard that there were people in the 6th level of the martial body realm who tested it before. At most, it would only be 3,000 to 4,000 meters. Truly terrifying. This is simply a monster. If the rank 6 beast were to face him, it would probably be solved in a single move. Quote, it seems that the sound wave martial spirit has given Zhang Lang a powerful strength. As everyone was discussing in surprise, they suddenly heard someone shout, Qin Yun is about to take the test too. Qin Yun was only at the 5th level of the martial body, but with his purple gold fire martial soul, his internal force was definitely not weak. So, everyone was also looking forward to it, especially the old students who were at the 5th level of the martial body. That was because they were able to see the difference in strength. In the eyes of the old students at the 5th level of the martial body, Qin Yun was very strong. Especially his performance at the Hidden Dragon Martial Arts Tournament, it could be said that he had shocked 3 great empires, and his reputation was well known everywhere. Qin Yun walked over and channeled the internal energy of his purple gold fire martial spirit. He slammed it into the gigantic drum with a loud bang. The stones on the drum also flew very high, but it could still be seen that they were not as high as the ones on the river. After the parrot had flown up for a while, it shouted, 3,700 meters. Wah! The older students cried out in surprise. This height was not as high as Zhang Lang, but it was above all the older students who were at the 5th level of the martial body realm. It was even higher than those who were at the 6th level of the martial body realm in the past. Qin Yun was only at the 5th level of the martial body. His internal force was already so strong. If he were to reach the 6th level of the martial body, he might even surpass Zhang Lang. Qin Yun did not use oscillating inner force. Otherwise, he would have definitely surpassed rivers and rivers. If they were to use it here, it would be very easy for it to be exposed. If I were to use shock inner force, its strength would not be any weaker than Zhang Lang. Qin Yun thought to himself. At that moment, he had a good idea of Zhang Lang's strength. Zhang Lang looked at Qin Yun from afar. His eyes were filled with a dark ruthlessness. He possessed a legendary martial soul, so he was supposed to be the most dazzling freshman in the Walling Academy. However, Qin Yun had been trying his best to steal the limelight. Now that he had stepped into the 6th level of the martial body, he finally received attention. However, he felt that it was not enough. He had to destroy Qin Yun in order to be able to lift his eyebrows and take back his glory. Empress, West Palace of Blue Spirit Star Palace, Profound Sky Academy Euro. They all hoped that Zhang Lang could destroy Qin Yun completely. If he could do so, he would definitely receive a generous reward. By noon, the first round of examination had already ended. Half of the freshmen had actually failed the examination, and these students had all gone back to pack their bags in despair. The students who passed the first round of examinations would be competing in the afternoon. In the first round of the internal force strength test, Zhang Lang steadily sat at the first place and received the reward of 2 upper yuan pills. Qin Yun was number 2. He had obtained a superior yuan pill and his third was 20,000 crystal coins. Qin Yun and Yang Xiyu sat together on a bench at the side of the plaza to rest. Yang Xiyu crossed her arms with a cold expression as she looked at the distant Zhang Lang. She said coldly, "Qin Yun, Zhang Lang has an extremely bad character. He is the most vicious person you have ever faced. I'll be careful." He had long known of Zhang Lang's notoriety, and he was in cahoots with the queen. He looked at River Wave that was far away from the martial arts practice hall and noticed that there were 2 old men from Blue Spirit Star Palace. They should be from the West Palace. There were also a few people from the Zhang family. "The Empress is here." Yang Xiyu looked in the direction of the plaza and said softly. The queen wore a simple purple dress, and she only brought a few old officials, including the Duke of Yan. This was not the imperial palace, and their authority had to be restrained here, so there was no such grand display. It seems like they are extremely confident in Zhang Lang. Even this wicked woman did not come when Qin Feng was sparring with me last time. Qin Yun said coldly. In the future, when Qin Zhengfeng ascends the throne to become the emperor, he will need the assistance of a talented martial genius like Zhang Lang. She is also trying to win over people, and she wants to see if you will lose miserably at Zhang Lang's hands. Yang Xiyu sneered. The queen's expression was ice cold. She exuded an icy arrogance as she looked at Qin Yun. Her eyes could not hide the monstrous killing intent as a sinister light flashed in her eyes. It was filled with hatred. The second round of the assessment began. It split into 2 groups to compete. Qin Yun and Zhang Lang were not in the same group. They would compete on 2 different arenas. It was a competition between freshmen. Against Qin Yun and Zhang Lang, they had no hope of winning. Fortunately, this round of the exam was only for the comprehensive exam. No matter who won, they would not be kicked out of the martial arts academy. The only difference was that those who competed with Qin Yun only suffered minor injuries. They could even obtain some pointers. As for the 2 who had fought against Zhang Lang, they were both heavily injured. Later on, as long as a student stepped on the stage, he would immediately admit defeat. Otherwise, he would definitely be beaten into a cripple by Zhang Lang. At this moment, everyone had a good impression of Qin Yun. They felt that he had the demeanor of a martial arts expert. While sparring with others, he gave pointers and pointed out their flaws. The students that had competed with Qin Yun were no longer afraid of forces like the Empress. They thanked him for his advice in front of their faces. Compared to him, Zhang Lang, who had attacked viciously, was definitely superior. The Empress and senior officials were all itching in their teeth as they watched. And when Zhang Lang heard everyone secretly praising Qin Yun, he wished that he could kill those people. After 6 hours of sparring, the final victors of the 2 teams were Qin Yun and Zhang Lang. They were going to engage in a final duel. When they came up on stage, Duan Qian and President Zhang advised Qin Yun not to go up. This was because they could all see that in order to raise their prestige, the Blue Spirit West Palace had spent a month to nurture Zhang Lang, also that he could achieve a complete victory in this exam. Qin Yun was the most outstanding youth among the 3 empires. As long as he was young, everyone wanted to defeat him and raise their reputation. It was the same even for Zhang Lang, who possessed a legendary martial soul. There were more and more people in the martial arts practice grounds. Everyone was filled with anticipation. Who was the most outstanding freshman in the Walling Martial Arts School? It all depended on this battle. Chapter 86: The Power of the Legendary Martial Spirits. In the evening, The 9 beautiful sunsets stood side by side in the horizon, dyeing the sky red. It seemed as though they were also watching this battle from afar. Many people had gathered in the martial arts plaza of the Walling Martial Arts School. Qin Yun and Zhang Lang walked to the large martial stage in the middle. The hourglass was still leaking sand, so the break wasn't over yet. However, their hearts were filled with fighting spirit, and they were all itching to fight. Qin Yun clearly remembered that when he entered the Walling Wu Academy to awaken his martial soul, Zhang Lang, who was in the next classroom, had awakened his sonic soul and attracted everyone's attention. Zhang Lang was also known as the person who awakened the strongest martial spirit in the history of the Walling Wu Academy. He was also seen as the #1 genius among the freshmen. Now, he was finally going to have his first confrontation with Zhang Lang. Zhang Lang was wearing a beautiful blue tight suit. He had his hands behind his back and a proud expression on his face. The corners of his mouth curled into a disdainful sneer. He said loudly to Qin Yun, "You only have one spirit vein. You are destined to have no future. In these past few days, you must have been cultivating. You should have deeply understood where your bottleneck is, and how tiny it is for you to step into the 6th level of the martial body realm." Quote. When Zhang Lang saw that Qin Yun was silent, he continued sneering. "If you were a true genius, even if you only had a bloodline, you would still be able to break through to the 6th level of the martial body. There are a lot of people who can step into the 6th stage at the age of 15. Although your martial arts are good and you can craft talismans, you can't go far." Everyone silently nodded their heads. This was indeed a hard injury. Qin Yun was able to advance to the 5th level of the martial body because of a large amount of cultivation resources. In the later stages of this semester, when there were no cultivation resources, his cultivation had stopped at the 5th level of the martial body realm. Some students believed that if they had resources like Qin Yun's, they might be able to enter the 6th level of the martial body realm. An elder from Blue Spirit Star Palace laughed loudly and said, "You are right. Even if Qin Yun is impressive in other areas, he will only be able to shine in the early stages. But in the future there is no one in the future who would possess a first sun spiritual pulse." Quote. "I've lived for so many years, but I've never heard of anyone who could cultivate to the 7th level of the martial body realm with a 1 sun spiritual pulse. Even a 2 sun spiritual pulse could not reach this stage." Everyone knew that the later one cultivated the martial way, the harder it was to raise their cultivation level. Thus, in the later stages, the benefits of having more spirit veins would manifest. Qin Yun only watched indifferently. His emotions did not fluctuate and he appeared extremely calm. Zhang Lang did not successfully enrage Qin Yun. He continued to say with a sneer, "Back then, it was correct for Tianqian to annul your position as crown prince. That is because you are not worthy to be the crown prince or the future emperor. You don't even deserve the martial spirit. If you could transfer your martial spirit, you should have given it to the crown prince. Your spirit veins would be shining brightly in his body." Qin Yun was slightly infuriated as he clenched his fist and said coldly, "Since you are so loyal to Qin Zhengfeng, you should give him your legendary martial soul. That is the true way to become a loyal dog. I never thought that a person with a legendary martial spirit would be willing to be someone's dog slave." Quote. Zhang Lang was infuriated by Qin Yun's words and laughed angrily. "Qin Yun, you can be so arrogant with Yang Shiyu's protection. Let me tell you, even if you manage to escape this calamity today, she won't be able to protect you in the future. After this semester, she must go to Blue Spirit Star Palace and cultivate her relationship with her fiancé. Hee, you don't know, but her future husband is someone who has stepped into the martial Dao realm at the age of 30. He can crush you to death with a single finger." Qin Yun frowned as he clenched his fist tightly. An inexplicable sense of melancholy and anger welled up in his heart. He was feeling mixed emotions as his mind was thrown into chaos. Zhang Lang laughed out loud, "Haha, your dream goddess is destined to be someone else's wife, what a pity. Xiao Yulan was like this, and Yang Shiyu was the same." Everyone could not help but sigh. This was fate. Everyone could tell that Qin Yun had some feelings for Yang Shiyu. Yang Shiyu's face was ice cold, her gaze was like a blade, gazing at the distant martial stage, the river waves that were laughing maliciously, releasing a cold air that blew over, causing the entire martial arts practice field to suddenly become colder. Her killing intent, which was filled with anger, spread from 100 meters away to the battling platform, causing Zhong Lang's back to break out in a cold sweat. Zhong Lang had also been restrained, and the result she wanted had been achieved. The training field was cold and quiet, and the faint, sha-sha, sound of the hourglass could be clearly heard. The 9 suns made the sunset seem incomparably sad and beautiful. A lone eagle slowly flew across the sad and beautiful horizon, appearing extremely lonely. The cold air in the martial arts arena gradually disappeared. Yang Xiyu had left, but she did not even look at Qin Yun's sparring. Qin Yun had been staring at Zhong Lang the entire time. His expression was calm, and he could sense that Yang Xiyu had left. Perhaps the departure this time meant that they had parted ways. He sighed in his heart. He knew that in order to help Yang Xiyu break free from the shackles of fate, he would need a strong power. He suppressed his emotions and maintained his best state of mind. Are you very disappointed? That's right, you should understand even more now, that you are after all a mediocre person with a 1 Yang spirit meridian. You are not worthy of a girl like Xiao Yulan and Yang Xiyu. Zhong Lang mocked. Anyone could clearly see how lost Qin Yun looked. The Empress was also very satisfied. She nodded towards the head of the Zhong family, her face full of smiles. There was praise in her eyes as she looked towards Zhong Lang. When the hourglass was out, Principal Zhong announced the start of the martial arts competition. Zhong Lang did not move. Instead, he opened his mouth and roared. The sharp sound wave spread out in all directions like a tidal wave. Many people immediately covered their ears. They all felt uncomfortable from the sound wave. Even though the distance to the martial stage was so far, the shockwave still caused all of his organs to tremble. It was extremely uncomfortable, not to mention on the martial stage. Ha 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 ha. Zhong Lang laughed wildly, and waves of violent sound waves accompanied his laughter. The students at the 4th level of the martial body realm were shaken by the sound wave to the point that their faces turned pale. Some of them had blood trickling from their mouths, but fortunately, they were protected by their teachers. Even the Empress and the others covered their ears, using their chi to block out the ear-piercing laughter. When the crowd saw Qin Yun standing there motionless, they immediately felt great regret. They believed that Qin Yun had been shaken senseless by the sound waves and had lost his sense of hearing. That was why he stood there like an idiot. The students who had competed with Zhong Lang in the previous matches were all unable to withstand this sound wave from the very start. In the end, they were struck by it and their brains were damaged, turning them into idiots. And now, the sound wave produced by Zhong Lang's laughter was even louder. It was unbearable compared to the people around the arena, much less Qin Yun, who was locked down by the sound wave. Qin Yun's body trembled slightly as though he was affected by the sound wave. I am the most outstanding freshman of the Waling Martial Arts School. You can end this now. Zhong Lang moved as though he was flying as he charged over. His complacent expression was filled with viciousness, as though he wanted to tear Qin Yun to shreds. Suddenly, the muscles and bones in Qin Yun's body began to emit crackling sounds. With a punch, flames spewed out from his entire body. With a loud hong sound, purple flames and golden purple lightning shot out from his trembling fist. They intertwined together, forming a thunder, fire, and lightning snake. Crash! Asterisk. The thunderfire lightning serpent howled as it shot towards Zhong Lang. In an instant, it had struck him, piercing through his body. When he was 2 meters away from Qin Yun, he came to a stop. Following that, an oppressive aura burst forth from the stage, bringing with it a scorching heat wave that rippled outwards, causing the onlookers to feel suffocated. It was inner strength. No one was unfamiliar with the aura of inner strength, but it could only be released by a person at the 6th level of the martial body realm. Zhong Lang hadn't expected this sudden attack. He didn't have time to dodge and his body was penetrated. His eyes widened as he looked at the calm Qin Yun. Boundless indignation surged in his heart. Bam! Zhong Lang fell on the battling platform and fainted. The 9 round suns in the horizon descended, blowing a lonely gust of cold wind. Qin Yun, who had won, looked at the spot where Yang Xiyu had just been. He could not help but look dejected as though he was extremely lonely. At this moment, His entire body was emitting a proud and aloof aura, like a lonely powerhouse standing at the peak. This was the power of a king. Chapter 87 Heaven Punisher Tower. Zhong Lang possessed a legendary martial spirit and was at the 6th level of the martial body realm. Yet, he was actually defeated in a single blow. It could be said that he had been defeated in a single stomp. In the quiet training field, the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace and the Zhong family rushed up to the stage. Both his internal chi and martial spirit have dispersed to Euro, the head of the Zhong family said with a trembling voice and a sobbing tone. Those from Blue Spirit Star Palace also had ashen faces. They were filled with endless grief. Below the dueling platform, the queen looked at the extremely calm Qin and felt her heart shudder. An inexplicable sense of fear overwhelmed her. The river wave that she had thought highly of had been destroyed by Qin with a single strike. This is the Zon level martial arts chi explosion technique, and it is also at the great perfection stage. The chi is as explosive as lightning. Where did you learn it from? An elder from Blue Spirit Star Palace glowered at Qin and roared. Qin was alarmed when he saw his chi explosion technique was seen through. However, he remained expressionless and said coldly, "No comment." Just now, he had used the oscillating martial spirit to release the oscillating inner chi which flowed through every part of his body. When the sound wave attacked, it was completely repelled by the vibrating power, which was why it was completely unharmed. The vibrating power completely restrained the sound wave of the river. "Do you know what you did?" The old man from the Star Palace shouted in anger. The student who possessed a legendary martial spirit had their martial spirits and inner chi dispersed. Qin grunted and said, "Such a tournament like this is a matter of life and death. Didn't Zhong Lang kill a few students earlier? Why can't I see your anger and regret? And Zhong Lang is still alive." Quote, Zhong Lang possesses a legendary martial spirit. If not for President Zhong beside him, he would definitely have attacked Qin. Qin said with a sneer, "The survival of the fittest is a cruel competition." Zhong Lang was extremely ruthless. In a sparring match, his actions were ruthless and merciless. He had never given anyone a chance to do so. He himself had always said that being weak meant death, and now I was simply returning the favor. But I'm not as vicious as him, so I gave him a chance to live. Even if Zhong Lang was still alive, it would still be more painful than death. If he can't even beat a trash of my bloodline, what's the use of having a legendary martial spirit? You all actually think of him as a treasure, truly ridiculous. Quote, the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace and the Zhong family were furious. Their hearts were aching and they had been mocked by Qin. Everyone could see that even though Qin had defeated Zhong Lang with overwhelming strength, he was still looked down upon by the Blue Spirit Star Palace because he only had a bloodline. President Zhong hurriedly walked over and announced loudly, "The final examination of the freshmen has ended. Qin has won and he has received the rewards of 10 or more elemental elixirs. He will be able to stay in the Qi Gathering Courtyard for 2 months and reduce his tuition fees for the next semester." The reward was not bad, especially since it allowed him to stay in the Qi Gathering Courtyard. Inside the Qi Gathering Courtyard, there was a Qi Gathering Grade formation. It was a place where teachers trained in seclusion, and the principal was also inside. After Qin took the 10+ elemental elixir pills, an elder from the Blue Spirit Star Palace shouted, he destroyed the only student of the Waling Wu Academy who had awakened a legendary martial soul. He must be punished. You should know that most of the martial arts in the Waling Martial Arts Academy were provided by our ancestor, Lan Shao. Do as I ask. The few elders wanted to capture Qin but they were stopped by President Zhong. We must punish him, or else we will close down the entire Waling Wu Academy. The Star Palace elder's attitude was very unyielding. It seemed that he had the ability to do so. Suddenly, an ethereal voice came from nowhere. Layers after layers of voices sounded out, giving people quite a shock. The voice said, Qin ignored the severity of the matter and crippled the precious student who possessed the legendary martial soul. But Zhong Lang's crimes are unforgivable. His methods are cruel and vicious, and he is a killer addict. I will send Qin to the Heaven Punisher Tower for 10 years to repent. Is it possible for me to punish him like this? Quote, although the person who spoke did not show up, everyone knew that he was the mysterious dean of the Waling Wu Academy, Qin. The Heaven Punisher Tower was a tower that no one could open except the principal. There was no spiritual energy in the cave. After being locked in for 10 years, it was equivalent to wasting 10 years of cultivation time. If we don't let him out within 10 years, we accept. The old man from Blue Spirit Star Palace spoke. He could feel the aura Qin Yang exuded, and his tone had also softened quite a bit. The rules of the Heaven's Punishment Tower were set by Grandmaster Lan Shao. If he could escape, he would be able to regain his freedom. Therefore, within 10 years, Qin Yun will be able to leave the Heaven Punisher Tower on his own. Qin Yang still did not show himself. He used his internal energy to send a sound transmission over. Even those from the Blue Spirit Star Palace were secretly shocked by such a deep level of inner strength. Qin Yun gritted his teeth. He was extremely unwilling to accept the punishment. Qin Yun, I know that you are unwilling to accept this, but this is all for the purpose of allowing the entire Lingwu Academy to continue operating. I, Qin Yang, guarantee that after 10 years, when you leave the Heaven Punisher Tower, as long as I am still alive, I will definitely compensate you for all the losses you've suffered during these 10 years. Qin Yanghe's words made the Empress and the others uneasy. Qin Yang was mysterious and strong, he would definitely keep his word. If Qin Yun came out 10 years later and obtained compensation, he would also be able to rise to prominence in a short period of time. With our Blue Spirit Star Palace here, this area will surely be turned upside down in 10 years. The old man from the Star Palace sneered. Qin Yun gritted his teeth. President Zhang was already behind him. He said with a sigh, Qin Yun, I'll bring you to the Heaven Punisher Tower. Just like that, everyone watched as Qin Yun was taken away towards the Heaven Punisher Tower. The people from Blue Spirit Star Palace, the Zhang family, the Empress and company were worried. They followed him because they wanted to see Qin Yun imprisoned in the tower with their own eyes. A euro. The center area of the Lingwu Academy was surrounded by high walls, heavily guarded. The Martial Arts Library, Heaven's Punishment Tower, and the Qi Gathering Courtyard were all located in this area. The Heaven's Punishment Tower wasn't too far away from the Martial Arts Pavilion. It was only 5 stories tall, and its exterior was a deep green. It was covered in rust, as though it was made of ancient bronze. It was dusty and cobwebbed, and had not been opened for some time. The group of people followed behind President Zhang and Qin Yun to the entrance of the Heaven Punisher Tower. The door automatically opened and it was pitch black inside. Waves of a sinister wind that carried an obsolete aura blew out, causing one's hair to stand. Qin Yun, if you have the ability to destroy this tower from the inside, you will not have to be locked up for 10 years. Qin Yanghe's voice drifted over, becoming clearer, as if he was in the vicinity. The old man from the Star Palace sneered. The Heaven Punisher Tower is a king-level spirit artifact refined by our Blue Spirit Star Palace. It is incomparably sturdy. How could it be so easily broken? Qin Yun secretly took a deep breath. He never expected the tower to be a king-grade spirit artifact. After a moment of shock, he asked, Dean Qin, if I can really come out, can you give me some compensation? After a moment of silence, Qin Yang replied, yes, but the compensation is up to me. All right. Qin Yun strode into the tower as the door slowly closed behind him. There's no spirit energy inside, and there's no food. I can't even say if he'll live for 10 years. He actually wants to destroy the Heaven Punisher Tower and come out. Dream on. Seeing Qin Yun enter, the people from the Star Palace vented their anger. Chapter 88. After Qin Yun entered the Heaven Punisher Tower, he conjured a ball of fire in his palm. It illuminated his surroundings. It was empty inside, with only a staircase. He climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor, startled. On the 2nd floor, there were a few faint golden skeletons. They all looked quite old. He said in a low voice, 7th level of the martial body. Its name is Golden Body. It can cultivate light golden bones. These are all 7th level martial body. They might even be 8th or 9th level. On a closer look, there were many broken parts on the bones. Such strong bones could even shatter. Could it be because of the collision with the wall? Qin Yun was alarmed. The tower had had people sealed up before. Furthermore, they were powerful people. When he arrived at the 3rd floor, aside from a few faint golden human bones on the floor, there was nothing else. It was still as empty as before. The fourth floor was slightly different. There were only 2 human bones, and both of them were sitting cross-legged on the floor, dying. The second and third floors were all over the place. After stepping onto the stairs leading to the 5th level, the flames on Qin Yun's palm suddenly extinguished, causing his entire body to tremble. At this moment, it was pitch black and extremely quiet. There was no sound at all. After a moment of shock, he continued to release flames. Just like before, it was instantly destroyed as soon as it was released. It was extremely strange. Who is it? Qin Yun was alarmed as he shouted loudly. There was no one, only his reply. From the storage space of the 9 Yang Divine Spirit, Qin Yun took out a green stone that emitted a faint glow. After a bit of light shone out, he used his psychic power to scan his surroundings, and his vision became extremely clear. He had finally reached the 5th floor. This was also the highest level. Sitting in the middle was a person wearing a black robe. The wrinkles on his face were layer after layer, and under the dim light, it was slightly terrifying. Elder A Euro. At the same time, he turned vigilant. Those imprisoned in the Heaven Punisher Tower must have made a mistake and had to be on guard. Dead. Qin Yun walked over to investigate it carefully before sighing. If there was a living person, he would know the situation here. 10 years. I can't stay in this damn place for 10 years, I'll go crazy. Qin Yun found a spot to sit down and carefully examined the storage space inside the 9 Yang Divine Spirit. There was a lot of demonic beast meat inside. The snow lion that he had killed during his match with Xiao Lang was enough for him to eat for a very long time. 10 over Yuan Dan, I wonder if I can cultivate the soul scripture. He took out the Yuan Dan that he had won in this round's end of term exam. Refining the soul scripture required a large amount of mental power. The Yuan Dan contained a dense amount of 9 Yang energy. By absorbing the 9 Yang spirit, it could condense a large amount of spiritual force. He ate a supreme Yuan pill and started to cultivate with his eyes closed. With such a quiet place, it was not a bad place to cultivate. A Euro. Outside the Heaven Punisher Tower, Yang Xiyu looked up at the top of the tower and sighed. It might not be a bad thing for him to stay inside for 10 years. Principal Zhang, who stood beside, slightly nodded his head. The Empress's father, who is the country's foreign minister, has already stepped into the martial Dao realm. The conclusion has been made. In half a year, if Qin Zhengfeng and Xiao Yulan's engagement was successful, they would most likely hold a big wedding quickly. The emperor may be the empress, but he may also be the crown prince. Quote, the Empress and the others are closely related to Blue Spirit Star Palace's Western Palace, Nangong and Northern Palace. Yang Xiyu let out a long sigh and said, their strength increases with each passing day. Even if I'm at the 9th level of the martial body at such a young age, I'm afraid I'm still unable to break free from the shackles of fate. Principal Zhang said, Dean Qin said that Blue Spirit Star Palace did not come here to impart martial arts. Instead, they treated this place as their last path of retreat. Because they suffered a great defeat in the martial wasteland, they retreated here to amass resources, recruit troops, and wait for their strength to increase before making other plans. Quote, Yang Xiyu sneered. I knew it wasn't that simple. The Cloud Dragon Mountain Range is so rich, they must enslave the people here and help them open up the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range to find resources. Principal Zhang nodded and said with a sigh, exactly so. In short, with Qin Yun inside, he will be able to avoid all the disputes over this period of time. What are your plans for the future? Do you really want to marry to the Crown Prince of the Heavenly Roar Empire? Quote, the Crown Prince of the Heavenly Roar Empire was also a mysterious figure who was already over 30 years old and rarely showed his face. It was said that he had reached the martial Dao realm and was an extremely terrifying figure. I don't know. I'll enter the Blue Spirit Star Palace and meditate for a while before I say anything else. Yang Xiyu sighed and said, let's go, we'll come back in 10 years. Principal Zhang said, A Euro. Although the Heaven Punisher Tower had no windows, Qin Yun could clearly hear the conversation between Principal Zhang and Yang Xiyu from inside. Prince Tianxiao, he actually stepped into the martial Dao realm. The Heavenly Roar royal family was indeed the strongest among the 3 empires. I can step into the martial Dao realm too. Teacher, wait for me. I will definitely help you. Quote. Qin Yun composed himself and continued cultivating. He had the oscillating martial spirit, the mysterious nine-yang divine spirit, and the mysterious heart of martial arts. That was why he had such confidence. Of course, the most important thing right now was to leave the Heaven Punisher Tower as soon as possible. He couldn't wait 10 years, not even 10 months. In about half a year, it would be the grand engagement between Qin Zhengfeng and Xiao Yulan. He had to attend it. After more than a few days, Qin Yun had only consumed 5 elemental elixirs. Even though he hadn't cultivated the Heart Sutra, he realized that his comprehension of the mysterious Yang tactic had reached a whole new level. He had long since cultivated the Zhan Yang tactic to the great perfection stage and was able to draw out the spirit energy within. This was a realm that very few people could touch. After a few days of meditation and comprehension, he had a strange feeling when he was using his elemental energy. It was as if he was about to reach the acme of perfection. The mastery of martial arts is divided into initial stage, mastery, perfection stage, and the legendary perfection stage. I've already mastered the Zhan Yang tactic to perfection stage. Qin Yun was filled with anticipation as he focused all his attention to comprehend the Black Yang tactic and began breaking through to the perfection stage. Even though the Zhan Yang tactic was only a high-grade martial art, it also had a stage of perfection. It was only a conceptual stage. Even the creator of the mysterious Yang tactic might not have been able to cultivate it to this stage. He focused on the last chapter of the Black Yang mantra as he breathed in and out non-stop. The speed of his breathing became faster and faster. It rotated rapidly and breathed rapidly, expanding and contracting at a very rapid rate. In order to maintain this state, Qin Yun had no choice but to consume the remaining 5 elemental elixirs. In this state, it required a large amount of spiritual energy to be absorbed. The Heavenly Punishment's Tower was isolated from the outside world, and was unable to absorb spiritual energy at all. Previously, he needed a few days to refine 5 over-elemental elixirs. But now, after a day, he had completely refined all the spirit energy from the 5 Yuan Dan beads. He looked into his dantian and was suddenly surprised to find that there was a strange white ball of qi inside it. Chapter 89 Star Yang Heart Sutra. Qin Yun had twin martial spirits, so he could cultivate and produce 2 elemental energies. Within his purple gold fire elemental energy, there was also a black vibrating elemental energy, as if the core was at the heart of the fire elemental energy. At this moment, there was a white mist flowing on the surface of the black elemental energy. This was what Qin Yun had just cultivated. What is this thing? Could it be a special type of energy? He focused his mind to manipulate the white mist. Unexpectedly, the white mist ran out of his dantian and entered his golden heart. Then, like a dancing white ribbon, the white mist slowly rose from his chest. It could become very long, at least 10 meters long. My perception of spiritual energy is getting clearer and clearer. This white band of light seems to be able to strengthen one's perception of spiritual energy. Qin Yun was secretly delighted before he attempted to control the beam of light to penetrate the Heaven Punisher Tower's wall. Immediately, he managed to escape. The moment the beam of light left him, he seemed to have suddenly gone from a dirty place in the air into a pleasant mountain forest. He finally felt the spiritual energy that he hadn't felt in a long time. Even Qin Yun could not believe that an inner force cultivation technique, after reaching perfection, would have such a miraculous strength. Looking at the white belt of light, he was extremely excited. I remember a book that records that the inner force was cultivated to perfection, allowing the inner force to give birth to spiritual force a Euro elemental soul. When you train your inner force to the perfection stage, you will be able to form your primordial spirit. Will you be able to leave your elemental energy? Even if Yang Shiyu was this proficient in cultivation techniques, she had never cultivated it to the perfection level, so her understanding in this area was not that deep. The primordial spirit could easily pierce through the incomparably sturdy wall and insanely absorb the 9 suns' energy from outside. Qin Yun's 2 elemental energies were frantically breathing. Like a cow drinking, they absorbed and refined the spiritual energy. He did not wake up until late at night, when the 9 suns had become thinner. When the 9 suns go down the mountain, the spiritual energy will gradually become thinner. Even if your primordial spirit was to swim out, it would not be able to absorb much spiritual energy. Just as he was about to retrieve his primordial spirit, he suddenly felt a strange energy. What is this energy? Apparently, this energy is different than the spiritual energy of the 9 suns. It was late at night outside. Was it the power of the moon? That's not right. Teacher has the moon martial spirit, the spiritual energy isn't like that. After he shook his head, he suddenly thought of another possibility. Astral spirit energy. The night was filled with stars. Although there were also stars during the day, they were blocked by the sunlight, so they couldn't see much, let alone feel the spiritual energy of the stars. It's a self-created technique by Grandmaster Lan Shao. Qin Yun suddenly recalled the cryptic chant. Star mantra, sun monastery, stable heart, and spirit concentrating star. Starlight can be understood as the stars meditating, and the sun as the sun watching. What are you looking at? Look at the stars. Could the stars have something to do with the sun? This was equivalent to another type of spiritual energy. A firm heart means a firm mind. A spirit will condense the heart into a star, and a spirit will condense the heart into a star. Quote, he felt as if he was trying to comprehend something, but he could not grasp the crux of it. Meditation. To absorb the power of the 9 suns and form the stars. One must have a strong mind in order to condense one's spirit into a star. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and used his primordial spirit to absorb the star aura. 9 Yang refinement, stars refinement. In the primal chaos universe, when the astral souls were illuminated by the 9 suns, they would meditate and cultivate their spirit, condensing their astral souls to form a star. The starlight passes through the stars to absorb the 9 suns' spiritual energy, and the pure spiritual energy that it refines can directly absorb the astral energy and refine it into spirit. There's no need to use the 9 suns' spiritual energy anymore. Through his primordial spirit, Qin Yun was able to absorb the astral energy and further confirmed his understanding. Yang refinement body, star refinement spirit, and star Yang complementarity. Let's just call this the star Yang true scripture. I am currently training in the Star Training Spirit section, and the other section should be the Yang Refinement Body section. Quote, Qin Yun felt his spirit constantly strengthening as he secretly rejoiced. The people from Blue Spirit Star Palace had truly given him a supreme skill in the art of internal energy. Qin Yun smiled inwardly and said, perhaps it's because of the passage of time. Back then, the method that Lan Shao Martial King used to write down his cultivation technique was different from the one he has now. That's why it's more difficult to understand. It's also possible that it's not easy to cultivate an inner force cultivation method to the acme of perfection. Therefore, the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace have not been able to comprehend these 2 chants for many years. He couldn't completely understand it either, so he could only get a general idea of the direction. The short chant was exactly like this. It was just a simple introduction. The rest depended on one's own performance, relying on one's own comprehension to walk down one's own path of martial arts. This way, everyone would be able to walk on a different path of martial arts, which was why there had been so many martial arts in the past few years. After a night of cultivation, his mental strength had increased by a lot, and he would soon be able to form his soul scripture. During the day, he had practiced his Yang body refinement technique. It was a bit longer than Star Refinement's incantations. The 9 suns are different, the divine abilities are myriad, the sun god's soul flies, and the divine abilities enter the body. He was completely confused as he read and recited. Although it was not as difficult as training one's spirit during the night, there was no direction for him to go. Until noon, he still had nothing to gain, so he could only give up. This can only be suddenly comprehended after a certain period of time. Just like last night, I need an opportunity. After Qin Yun understood what was going on, he no longer bothered with it. He placed it aside and let nature take its course. Now that he was able to comprehend star refinement, it could be considered a huge harvest. In the blink of an eye, Qin Yun spent half a month in the Heaven Punisher Tower. Ever since he had comprehended star refinement, he would release his primordial spirit every night to absorb the astral chi and use it to cultivate his mind for more than 10 days. In the sky above the Heaven Punisher Tower, the stars were shining like the sea, calm and beautiful. Inside the Heaven's Punishment Tower, Qin Yun could not see the resplendent sea of stars. However, He could clearly sense the boundless and mysterious sea of stars through his primordial spirit. Every time he had this feeling, his mind would fluctuate. Because he felt that he was as insignificant as dust in front of the sea of stars, like a drop in the ocean, and that a sense of inferiority and powerlessness would surge into his heart and give birth to an inexplicable sense of desolation. Whenever these emotions appeared, he would always be able to steel his heart, withstand the invisible attacks, and continue to absorb spiritual energy from the stars. Ever since he was a child, he had experienced many different kinds of hardships. He had long since cultivated an incomparably firm heart, and firmly believed that through hard work, he could shake the will of the heavens. In the chants, there was a reference to peace of mind. This was because the further one cultivated, the more one could feel how terrifying the star sea was. It was all for resisting the grand aura that came from the ancient star sea. My heart is like the stars. Qin Yun opened his eyes as a glint flashed in his eyes. He looked like two bright stars. He had finally cultivated the soul scripture. The soul scripture was like a starry river shining with starlight, connecting with the golden heart and the tiny stars in the brain. Spirit star, I've succeeded. It was very dark all around, but under the cover of his powerful mind, he was able to capture all the tiny grains of sand clearly. Not only did Qin Yun cultivate the soul scripture, he also used the Xingyang heart scripture to form his mind into a star. This meant that the strength of his mind energy would far surpass that of others. Chapter 90 Elementary Level. Qin Yun stayed in the Heaven Punisher Tower for half a month. There was still half a month until the start of the next semester. When he cultivated the soul scripture, it could be said that his rate of improvement had increased by leaps and bounds. His top priority right now was to leave the Heaven Punisher Tower. There's something strange about the stone tablets. When he had released his spiritual energy to cover this layer, he had noticed that the stone tablets were different. He then took out the glowing stone and shone it on the ground. He discovered that the stone slab in the middle of the floor was different. It was a specially made stone slab. He carefully examined it for a moment and discovered that there was a 5-meter wide square diagram here. It was all made up of blocks of stone slabs. This kind of stone board can carve spirit inscriptions and form a spirit array. The flame that I released earlier was probably absorbed by these stone tablets. Qin Yun suddenly came up with a plan that could help him leave the Heaven Punisher Tower. He immediately ran down and picked up all the skeletons from every floor and threw them into the furnace. Sorry, I will use your corpses to break this tower. Qin Yun looked at the bones in the furnace and muttered. Afterwards, he threw in a small piece of heavy spirit jade and all of the demon beast bones. Qin Yun sent his origin soul out and absorbed a large amount of 9 yang energy. He released a strong golden purple flame and poured it into the furnace to burn the various objects. He had done this often in the Hall of Marking, but it was just that he didn't have that much fused items. I need to burn it for a long time. I will take advantage of this time to set up a formation and infuse the internal energy of the purple gold flame at regular intervals to maintain the flame. He took out his carving knife and a large stack of papers. He copied that stack of paper when he first entered the 9 yang spirit convergence array. The spirit markings inside were the same as the parts of the 36 spirit markings, so he had mastered the dark markings as well. He wanted to use the stone tablets on the ground to set up the 9 yang spirit convergence array. If I release the fire here, it will be immediately absorbed by the stone tablets on the ground. This means that the stone tablets can be used to set up the formation, and once it is set up, the formation can be activated by introducing the 9 yang energy into it. After a few days of carving, Qin Yun had successfully inscribed the 9 yang spirit convergence array. It could be channeled outside the tower through the primordial spirit sea and attract 9 yang energy into the array. The great thing about the 9 yang spirit convergence array was that it could absorb the 9 sun spirit energy and quickly refine it into pure energy. After the formation was set up, most of the things inside the furnace had also been smelted. He took out the blueprint of the giant spirit king hammer, and began to hammer and forge according to the shape of the hammer. The speed at which he landed his hammer was extremely fast. In just a moment, he had hammered several times. In order to forge the materials better, he had even used the 6 forms of forging dragon a euro. Clonk, clonk, clonk. Qin Yun was bare-chested as he executed the first 4 moves of the 6 forms of the dragon forging fist: a euro, thunderclap, tremor, flowing light, and landslide. It was all for forging the giant spirit king hammer. For the next few days, he continued forging hard materials day and night. It was extremely arduous, but luckily, he was able to use his primordial spirit to quickly absorb spiritual energy and replenish his mental and physical energy consumption. Looking at the hard-earned embryo, he nodded his head in satisfaction. I have both the alchemy mark and the strengthening mark. With the current conditions, I can only temporarily refine the giant spirit king hammer, which is an inferior grade spiritual artifact. The psychic power generated by the cultivation of the astral chi was incomparably powerful, capable of allowing him to finish carving the alchemy mark without getting tired. After he finished carving the alchemy patterns, he let out a long sigh. I'm going to carve a solid seal. This is the first time I'm carving 2 kinds of spirit patterns on the same artifact. When carving the second type of spirit pattern, one would need to use their mental strength to find the most suitable location. It did not conflict with other spirit patterns, and it could not interfere with other spirit patterns. It was a good thing that he had the blueprint, and it stated how he would do it. a euro. Of course, the materials needed for a true giant spirit king hammer were not easy to obtain, and there were also many spirit inscriptions. Qin Yun was currently equipped with the conditions to forge an inferior grade spirit treasure, the giant spirit king hammer. It took him several days and nights to carve these 2 spirit inscriptions onto the black hammer for the first time. It could be said that everything went smoothly. It was Qin Yun's first time refining it. The conditions were harsh, but he was still able to successfully produce it. It could be said to be very good. It's almost school time. Qin Yun danced around with the low-grade giant spirit king hammer. He had added half a piece of heavy spirit jade. After being heated up, the heavy spirit jade would gradually become heavier. Therefore, after heating up the giant spirit king hammer, it could also become heavier. Qin Yun used his strongest flame to heat it. It weighed 5,000 jin. Using physical strength to wield the sword is already strenuous, but using inner chi is still barely adequate. Only by using inner force can it be easily wielded. Qin Yun was extremely satisfied with this. After resting, he began the final step of his plan. He walked to the center of the 9 yang spirit convergence array and placed the giant spirit king hammer in the center. One side of the hammer was stuck to the ground, while the other side was facing the top of the tower. Qin Yun stood beside the 9 yang spirit convergence array and allowed his primordial spirit to swim out to absorb the 9 sun spirit energy outside before channeling it into the formation. He then used his mind to control it and pour the converted spirit energy from the 9 yang spirit convergence array into the giant spirit king hammer. The giant spirit king hammer absorbed a large amount of 9 yang energy and released it through the alchemy tattoos, creating a scorching red light that shot straight to the top of the pagoda and continued to shine. The alchemy mark could strengthen the flame by several times, releasing heat. The amount of spiritual energy released by the 9 yang spirit convergence array was equivalent to the amount released by internal force. With such a steady flow of internal energy entering the giant spirit king hammer, the light emitted was extremely scorching. It's not enough. Qin Yun used his mind energy to sense the top of the tower. With a frown, he took out all his crystal and purple crystal coins and poured them into the 9 yang spirit convergence array. In total, it was equivalent to several 100,000 crystal coins. Sure enough, the 9 sun spirit convergence array was able to absorb the spirit energy from the crystal coins at an extremely fast speed. It turned into spirit energy and poured it into the giant spirit king hammer. The purplish gold laser suddenly became much thicker. I've put in all my effort. Qin Yun watched as the crystal coins slowly disappeared. He felt a pang in his heart. If he could really get out, it would be worth it. After several hours, all of the crystal coins had turned into white ashes. At night, a fist-sized hole appeared on the top of the Heaven Punisher Tower. The silver moonlight shone through the hole, brightening the pitch-black 5th floor. It's a success. Qin Yun was extremely excited as he kept the stone tablets into his storage space. It was a mini 9 yang spirit convergence array. He rested for a few hours. After changing into a clean white robe, he jumped up with great force and grabbed the edge of the small hole with his hands. Then, he controlled the bone to shrink the bone, causing the body to shrink. When Xiao Yu Lan impersonated Xiao Yu Mei, she used this method to reduce her size. It was only Qin Yun's first attempt, but he had successfully made himself look like a child and drilled out a small hole. He stood on top of the pagoda and looked at the white belly of the fish on the horizon. He could not help but laugh out loud. The 9 suns slowly rose into the sky, blooming with beautiful morning light. They awakened the creatures on the ground, bringing them limitless vitality. A mere broken tower is not enough to lock me up. Give me 10 years, and I'll blast this tower to smithereens. Qin Yun looked around and did not discover anyone. He jumped down and rushed towards the Forbidden Zone's gate. Chapter 91 Vicious Beasts. The guards at the entrance could not help but be stunned when they saw Qin Yun running over. By the time they reacted, they were already far away. Euro, was it really Qin Yun? Isn't he locked up in the Heaven's Punishment Tower? A middle-aged guard said in astonishment. It's Qin Yun. I need to report this quickly. One of the old guards said and left in a hurry. A month ago, Qin Yun, who had been imprisoned in the Heaven's Punishment Tower, had actually come out. The guards didn't know what was going on, they only knew that this matter was extremely important, so they quickly reported it to their superior. Qin Yun walked out of the Heaven Punisher Tower and noticed the drastic changes that had occurred outside, especially in the atmosphere. After he came out, he immediately rushed to the bamboo forest residence. At the bamboo woods house, the doors were shut tight. There was no one inside, and the yard was filled with weeds. With a single glance, one could tell that it had been empty for many days. Teacher really left the Waling Wu Academy. Qin Yun was completely at a loss as he sighed inwardly. He then hurried over to Principal Zhang's residence, which was a red wooden building. €1. At the Waling Martial Arts Academy, in a 3-story wooden building beside the martial arts practice grounds. In a study in Principal Zhang's wooden building, he was reading a book. Suddenly, he saw a grinning Qin Yun dressed in white. He was as alarmed as though he had seen a ghost. Qin Yun said with a smile, "President, I'm here to handle the entrance exam. A month ago, I defeated Zhang Lang in the final exam. It seems like I still have 100,000 crystal coins as reward." That day, Qin Yun had just received the reward of 10 superior elemental elixirs when he was interrupted by the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace. When President Zhang heard Qin Yun's voice, he confirmed that it was not an illusion. He asked in surprise, "How did you come out?" "I made a hole in the top of the pagoda and used the bone shrinking art to shrink my body before running out." Qin Yun said with a smile, "Hurry up and register for me." Principal Zhang's eyebrows twitched. Everyone knew that the Heaven's Punishment Tower was extremely sturdy. Even a 9th-level martial body cultivator would not be able to escape from it, let alone a 5th-level martial body teenager. You always do things that are against common sense. President Zhang could only accept the fact and go through the procedures for Qin Yun to enter the academy in the new semester. Ever since that guy from Blue Spirit Star Palace entered the Martial Arts Academy, his tuition couldn't increase at all. It's worth 100,000 crystal coins. Qin Yun frowned. In order to escape, he had exhausted all his crystal coins in the Heaven Punisher Tower. He smirked and said, "How expensive." Principal Zhang handed over a new student token and said, "The tuition fee will increase, so the resources will naturally increase as well." There were a total of 10 days in the competition for the new semester. It's already been 8 days. Do you want to go? That's a competition hosted by the Blue Spirit Star Palace. Beast hunting is the main event. Of course, Qin Yun said hurriedly. He felt a sense of regret that he had missed out on so many days. €1. On the west side of the Waling Wu Academy, there was a huge garden surrounded by high walls. Qin Yun followed President Zhang to the entrance of the garden. This garden had existed for many years and was extremely spacious. It was currently being used for competitions and trials. Principal Zhang said, "The Blue Spirit Star Palace has gathered a large number of vicious beasts. Their strength is equivalent to a 5th-level martial body. They need a class team to defeat them. And the 9th squad only has you. This requires you to hunt and kill the beasts on your own. Those who kill the most will get the best results and be rewarded." Qin Yun looked eager as he said with a smile, "Can I go in now?" "You must be careful of evil beasts. There are only 2 days left, and you can't kill more than a few of them, so don't force yourself €. After opening the door, President Zhang wanted to say a few more words before Qin Yun charged in. In a blink of an eye, he was gone. If one wanted to obtain resources in the Hualing Wu Academy or other martial arts academies, one must obtain the best results in these competitions or examinations. There are only 2 days left. I have to hurry and find those evil beasts and try my best to get some rewards. I don't want those 100,000 tuition fees to go down the drain. Qin Yun thought to himself. Voila! The sky was overcast with gray clouds. The rain began to fall heavily, and the weather suddenly changed. The forest in the trial garden became dark and cold, full of mud. The rain was pouring heavily, washing away all traces of the evil beasts. It would be even more difficult to track down the evil beasts. Qin Yun focused his mind to sense the weak aura of the demonic beast €. Evil beasts were also a type of monstrous beast. Because they were affected by the resentment, they became even more ferocious and brutal. Their bodies and auras were different from normal monstrous beasts, so it was very easy to distinguish them. I got it. I'll try using the inner spiritual rotation skill. Qin Yun's heart stirred as he released his primordial spirit. The primordial spirit had a very close connection with the mind. It could unleash a stronger mind energy through the primordial spirit, allowing one to have a better control over it. Suddenly, Qin Yun discovered something. He rejoiced in his heart. The primordial spirit is indeed powerful. It allowed me to sense the vicious beast, and it was extremely clear. The ruthless ferocious beast constantly exuded a ruthless aura. This was a type of mental energy wave that was caught by Qin Yun's primordial spirit. Moments later, Qin Yun arrived beside a bush €. Suddenly, a gray boar that was overflowing with black gas rushed out. Bastard! Qin Yun roared as he quickly took out the giant spirit kinghammer and struck the boar's head with the thunderous tremor style. The angry thunder roared, followed by the hammer piercing through the wild boar's head, shooting out a fiery red flash. The wild boar howled and fell to the ground dead. Isn't it very strong? Qin Yun looked at the dead wild boar and curled his lips. He kept it in his storage space and continued searching for the next beast. He could take down this beast in one strike. If any other student were to see this, they would definitely be shocked by such strength. One must know that a few days ago, even if the students of both classes joined forces, they were still unable to defeat this wild boar. Although the evil beasts were savage, they were not stupid at all. They would try their best to avoid more people, and they would not even meet anyone. Thus, catching them was extremely difficult. However, through his primordial spirit, Qin Yun could easily sense the aura of an evil beast. When he approached, the beast would discover that there was only one person, and it would immediately jump out, only to be smashed down by his hammer. €. 2 days had passed, and many people had gathered in front of the entrance to the garden. There were teachers, officials from the imperial city, and even a few old men from the Blue Spirit Star Palace. They had come for Qin Yun. The moment the news of Qin Yun's escape from the Heaven Punisher Tower spread, it shook the entire Heavenly Qin Empire. Many people knew how terrifying the Heavenly Punisher Tower was. It had imprisoned people at the 9th level of the body-tempering realm to death before. They had originally thought that Qin Yun would be locked up for 10 years or even be imprisoned inside. The scariest thing was that after confirming, the top of the Heaven's Punishment Tower had indeed been burned out from the inside by someone's burning flames. Qin Yun possessed a purple-gold fire martial soul, so the flames he released were extremely terrifying. It was a well-known fact, so he could only believe that fact. Almost every class had heavily injured students, which showed how powerful the beasts were. Qin Yun did not come out, but he had already begun counting the various classes' achievements. It was overseen by President Zhang. The teachers would lend the storage spirit artifacts to their class and let them enter to store the evil beasts. Now, the class leaders had taken out the beast corpses from their storage spirit artifacts. After a short while, they finished counting. The group that killed the most were the 8 squads, which had a total of 9 ferocious beasts. Not bad at all. The strength of these evil beasts are so powerful that you can kill one almost every day. It's not easy at all. A middle-aged teacher wearing a blue robe proudly laughed as he patted the head of Class 8's a class monitor. This class monitor's name was Jowda. His appearance was similar to the old man in the blue robe. It was clear that he was father and son. The blue-robed middle-aged man was also a disciple of the Blue Spirit Star Palace. He was assigned to be a teacher here, and his name was Zhao Guangwei. Chapter 92 Tranquil Heart Pill. A student of Class 8 said loudly, "This is all thanks to Class Rep Jowda. Among these, 8 of the beasts were killed by him." Upon hearing this, Jowda's face was filled with pride. He smiled and said, "That's also because everyone is cooperating with me. Now our class has obtained first place. The prize is a supreme grade spirit pill, heart consolidating pill, and 100,000 crystal coins. I only want the core consolidating pill and 50,000 crystal coins, and the rest of it will be distributed among you." All the students present could tell that Jowda was trying to get the bigger portion. When the more than 10 students of Class 8 heard this, they hurriedly smiled and thanked him, but in their hearts, they were very unhappy. However, no one dared to say anything. Jowda was already at the 5th level of the martial body realm at the age of 15. He was wearing the blue robe of the Blue Spirit Star Palace, a symbol of his status. His father, Zhao Guangwei, was an outer disciple of Blue Spirit Star Palace. Although he was only at the 7th level of the martial body realm, even an 8th level martial body teacher would have to be respectful in fear of offending the Blue Spirit Star Palace. After 2 months of prosperity, those who had suddenly descended upon the Blue Spirit Star Palace in the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range were already viewed as the holy land of martial Tao. No one dared to provoke those who came from there. However, according to the rumors, when Blue Spirit Star Palace descended, Qin Yun had crippled a disciple on the spot. Therefore, there were many people who had been bullied by the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace that secretly admired Qin Yun. "You can now give out rewards." Jowda looked at Principal Zhang with a proud expression and shouted. Principal Zhang frowned slightly. As a student, Jowda was actually acting so arrogantly in front of him. In the past, even a monstrous genius would not dare to put on such an arrogant and despicable face. "There's still one class that we haven't counted," Principal Zhang said coldly. There was another class, which was obviously Class 9. Class 9 only had Qin Yun in it. He had entered it 2 days ago. Everyone knew that Qin Yun was strong, but how many evil beasts could he kill in 2 days? "You're talking about Qin Yun, right? It was probably eaten by a vicious beast." Zhao Guangwei sneered. "Our Class 8 won this time. Quickly hand over the prize." He too felt that it was impossible for Qin Yun to win, but he still held on to a glimmer of hope. Just as he was about to award the prizes, a gust of hot air suddenly came over. Qin Yun took a fire cloud steps and flew out. Moreover, he was carrying a huge black wolf carcass on his shoulder. Not long after, he walked out of the garden's gate. When Qin Yun came out, the old official from Tianjin and the old man from Blue Spirit Star Palace had a ruthless look flash across their eyes. When Jowda saw Qin Yun, he sneered and said, "It's only a ferocious beast. Just tell me, if he went in for 2 days, how many could he kill? He has some strength, being able to kill a ferocious beast on his own within 2 days." Quote. Zhao Guangwei let out a sigh of relief and urged Principal Zhang, "Hurry up and hand over the reward." Principal Zhang was very unhappy with this father and son pair in front of him, but he had no choice but to take out those rewards. Just as he was about to hand them over €1. "Wait," Qin Yun hurriedly shouted as he placed the black wolf on the ground. "What is it? I have killed 9 ferocious beasts, yet you only have 1. Jowda shouted coldly. "I can't hold that many spirit artifacts in my storage. That's why I'm carrying them." Qin Yun smiled faintly. Everyone was slightly alarmed as they saw Qin Yun constantly take out the corpse of a ferocious beast from his storage space €1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 €9. In addition to the wolf he was carrying, there were a total of 10 ferocious beasts. Those students were all deeply frightened. They had all fought against evil beasts before, so they knew how terrifying they were. With so many of them working together, it was going to be difficult for them to kill one. Yet, Qin Yun had killed 10 of them by himself. I was just gasping for breath. "There's more." Qin Yun grinned before he continued retrieving the corpse of the demonic beast from his storage space €1. Everyone widened their eyes. watching as he continued to take out the corpses of the vicious beasts. Their eyeballs were on the verge of falling out. There was actually still a euro and not just one. Moments later, Qin Yun took out a few piles of beast corpses. There were 50 of them. Zhao Da's face was filled with disbelief. He was so shocked that he could not speak. The teachers and elders had already noticed that most of the beasts had traces of hammers on them. During the Hidden Dragon martial arts competition, Qin Yun's terrifying hammer technique had left a deep impression on many people. The injuries on the body of the demonic beast were caused by the hammer technique. Everyone counted. Qin Yun had killed more vicious beasts than the other classes combined. No wonder he said that storage artifacts could not fit inside. And what was even more astonishing was that Qin Yun's storage spirit artifact could contain more than 50 beasts. The space inside was not small either. It was a high-grade storage spirit artifact. In fact, Qin Yun never expected that the storage space within the Nine-Yang Divine Spirit would expand with the increase of his mental strength. It was extremely miraculous. After my careful observation a moment ago, I realized that these beasts have marks left behind by the Blue Spirit Star Palace. It can be confirmed that Qin Yun killed them from inside. After Principal Zhang recovered from his shock, he laughed heartily. Zhao Guangwei took a few deep breaths and was extremely unwilling to accept it. He questioned loudly, "Qin Yun, how did you do it? Even I cannot kill that many within 2 days." Quote, "That's because you're too weak," Qin Yun said. "What I mean is, how did you find the beast so quickly?" Zhao Guangwei asked in a slightly angry tone. Anyone could tell from the injuries on the demonic beast's body that it had been killed in 3 hits. Some of the injuries were caused by Qin Yun's attacks. I am only in the 5th level of the martial body realm. The monsters think that I am alone, so they all ran out to attack me. Qin Yun said with a laugh, but they all came to die. Principal Zhang hurriedly handed the Tranquil Heart pill and 100,000 crystal coins to Qin Yun. He said with a smile, "This is the reward for first place in this round. It would be best for you to eat the heart consolidating pellet after you cultivate the soul scripture, and at the same time, consolidate the heart sutra while strengthening the soul scripture." Quote. Qin Yun nodded and thanked him repeatedly. Zhao Da clenched his teeth and looked at Qin Yun with anger. The reward that was about to be received was taken away just like that. The Tranquil Heart pill was a rare and valuable pill that was priceless. Even in the Blue Spirit Star Palace, it was extremely scarce. It was no wonder that Zhao Da and his son were so flustered and exasperated. "It's very inappropriate to give this pill to Qin Yun," Zhao Guangwei suddenly shouted, "because during the competition to hunt and kill the ferocious beasts, I did not expect Qin Yun to participate. Furthermore, the heart consolidating pellet was not of much use to him, but it was extremely useful to others. We should give the heart strengthening pill to number 2, and then arrange for the other rewards to be given to number 1. In order to let his son obtain the precious heart strengthening pill, Zhao Guangwei had to go all out. "Teacher Zhao is right," an old man from the Star Palace said. The other people opposing Qin Yun immediately echoed his sentiments. Zhao Guangwei smiled complacently. He looked at President Zhang and continued, "Look, everyone thinks so. It's clear that everyone is dissatisfied with Qin Yun for obtaining the Tranquil Heart pill €1. Before he could finish his words, he saw Qin Yun take out the Tranquil Heart pill and swallow it. Qin Yun looked at Zhao Guangwei's ugly green face and said with a chuckle, "The taste is pretty good." Chapter 93 Flying Boots. Zhao Guangwei's face was twitching in anger. Initially, he thought that he would fight for the opportunity, but at this moment, there was no other chance left for him to do so. Everyone was shocked because high-level pellets like the heart consolidating pellet usually had to find a quiet place to eat them and slowly refine them. As for Qin Yun, he ate it as though it was sugar. It would have a significant impact on the medicinal strength of his refinement. "There's still the second round of the competition," Principal Zhang hurriedly said. Qin Yun felt the medicinal effects churning in his body and felt a little uncomfortable. "No matter what, it will take a period of time. Look, quite a few students here are injured." Quote. Zhao Guangwei could tell that Qin Yun was trying his best to suppress the medicinal strength. He sneered and said, "We'll begin the second round immediately. The reward for this second round of competition is much better than the Tranquil Heart pill. It's a high-grade profound rank martial skill." Quote. All the students were excited. Even Jowda was extremely excited. High-grade black rank martial arts were very precious. Even in the Blue Spirit Star Palace, it was not that easy to learn. Qin Yun looked at President Zhang and saw him nod. "We can begin the second round now?" Zhao Guangwei asked. The Tranquil Heart Pill was a top-grade spiritual pill with a very strong medicinal properties. If one did not focus on refining it, it would result in a waste of medicinal strength and might even harm the body. In this situation, if Qin Yun wanted to continue participating in the second round, he could only expel the medicinal strength. It would be equivalent to wasting a heart-strengthening pill. Everyone's heart ached for the Tranquil Heart Pill. To think that it had been wasted by Qin Yun. Qin Yun wasn't too worried. After cultivating the Black Yang formula to its superb state, the speed at which he refined the medicinal effects was extremely fast. What's the second round? Qin Yun knew that there would be a second round, but he never expected it to begin so soon. To compete in speed, run from here. Whoever gets to the gates of the Walling Martial Arts Academy the fastest will be able to obtain a high-grade profound rank martial art. 2 or 3 people will be able to obtain a high-grade profound rank martial art. Principal Zhang said, all students who have entered the 5th level of the martial body are allowed to attend. Prepare to begin. There were more than 200 students at the 5th level of the martial body realm. They were all prepared and ready to go. They were waiting for Principal Zhang to shout, "Begin." Our teachers should go to the entrance and wait there. Zhao Guangwei's face was filled with confidence, as if his son was going to win for sure. Before leaving, he even smiled at Jowda. Jowda looked at Qin Yun, who was frowning with his eyes closed, and said with a sneer, "Even if you do not suppress the medicinal effects, you will not be a match for me in this competition." The students participating in the competition were secretly delighted to see Qin Yun standing there motionlessly. They did not think that they would be first, but they were still confident in their second or third place. If Qin Yun were to participate, he would occupy one of the top 3 spots and they would have even less chance to enter the top 3. Qin Yun sat down cross-legged and began to refine the pill. He had thought that he could suppress the effects of the heart-consolidating pill, but he had underestimated the power of the supreme-grade spirit pellet. He had no choice but to calm his heart and refine it. The second round of the speed competition will now begin. Principal Zhang could only announce the start of the second round. Going from the entrance of the garden to the main gate of the Walling Wu Academy was not a straight path. There were many turns and turns before one could reach the training grounds and reach the main gate. Principal Zhang soared into the sky and headed for the main entrance. The eyes of the student running on the floor were filled with envy for the capable Principal Zhang. If he could fly as well, he would definitely be able to take first place. "Look at Jowda, why is he flying?" a student suddenly shouted. "Look at his boots, it was a flying spirit artifact. Damn it, he's actually using a spirit artifact. Who asked him to come from Blue Spirit Star Palace? I heard that his grandfather is someone with quite a bit of status in the Blue Spirit Star Palace." Quote, "His father is a teacher, and his grandfather's status is not low either. It's normal for him to have a pair of flying boots." Everyone looked at Jowda, who was flying through the air, in envy and jealousy. They felt extremely displeased in their hearts. Jowda was wearing a pair of blue boots. Although they were floating in the air, his speed was far inferior to Principal Zhang's. Furthermore, he was swaying and was not stable at all. It was obvious that this was his first time using them. €1. At the starting point, there was only Qin Yun by himself. Everyone was waiting for him at the main gate of the Walling Wu Academy. "So I am already near the 6th level of the martial body realm. No wonder I can't suppress it. I hope I can make it in time." Qin Yun was pleasantly surprised, but also extremely helpless. Given the current situation, there was no way for him to participate in the speed competition. After being nourished by the mystical medicinal properties of the heart-strengthening pill, the 3 classics in his body swiftly consolidated and strengthened, forming a connection with one another as though they were fusing together. The heart-strengthening pill also contained the spiritual energy of the 9 suns. Because he had the 9 suns spirit, he was able to absorb the most medicinal energy. The first thing to transform and strengthen was the heart meridian. Because he had eaten the profound heart grass before, after he had cultivated the black-yellow heart meridian, his bone meridian and meridians throughout his entire body had become extremely sturdy and had expanded by quite a bit. At this moment, the three great scriptures were connected as one. Under the impact of the majestic heart consolidating pellet, it was strengthened greatly yet again. The meridians in his body became tougher and tougher. If this goes on, I might be able to cultivate the black-yellow bone euro. As the medicinal strength gradually weakened, Qin Yun took a deep breath and opened his eyes. With a single thought, he had condensed inner strength. Through the expansion of his strengthened meridians, his inner strength flowed throughout his entire body in an instant and was incomparably smooth. Qin Yun could deeply feel the powerful strength produced by the surge of inner strength within his body. He could not help but feel slightly excited as he inwardly sighed. This is the feeling of releasing inner strength with inner elemental energy. This feeling was completely different from the inner strength condensed from the dragon's 6 styles. The inner strength formed by the dragon's 6 styles was very violent and difficult to control. I have finally broken through to the 6th level of the martial body realm. Teacher, wait for me. I will definitely enter the 9th level of the martial body before the age of 20. Qin Yun's eyes were bright like the stars as he was filled with confidence. He looked at Zhao De who was tottering in the sky and sneered. He thought to himself, at the 6th level of the martial body, am finally able to unleash the restricted fire cloud steps. He circulated the fire cloud's inner strength and moved towards his legs. A faint purplish golden flame appeared beneath his feet. Whiz! His legs shook and a wave of air burst out. He leapt with all his might, and in the blink of an eye, he was already hundreds of meters away. Qin Yun took a step forward and with a thud, he traversed the void at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, he was dozens of meters away. Among the speed competition, the fastest one was Zhao De, who was wearing flying boots. Just as they were about to reach the gate, someone suddenly shouted, "Look behind us, euro." Zhao Guangwei, who was waiting at the entrance, was originally in high spirits. However, when he saw Qin Yun sloppily walking over, his complacent smile immediately froze. Chapter 94 Qin Yong. Zhao De was about 100 meters away from the door when he suddenly felt hot air coming from behind him. He immediately turned his head and realized that it was Qin Yun who was running in the air with wasteful steps. "Hurry up!" Zhao Guangwei shouted in panic and woke up Zhao De. In the few seconds of Zhao De's shock, Qin Yun had already traversed more than 200 meters and was very close to the door. Zhao De was swaying and flying in the air. After flying a few dozen meters, Qin Yun suddenly flew over from beside him. He passed through the gates of the Waling Wu Academy and was the first to arrive. The corner of Zhao Guangwei's mouth twitched. Even if he was in hell, it didn't give him that much of a headache. Great perfection of the fire cloud steps, destroying flaming cloud. Principal Zhang exclaimed with his old eyes wide open. The teachers at the Waling Wu Academy were very clear that the fire cloud steps was Qin Yonghai's Qinggong. He could also cultivate it to the great perfection stage. However, Qin Yun, who was only 15 years old, had actually cultivated the flaming cloud steps to perfection. Standing in the air was like flying. Zhao De passed through the door as well. When he saw Qin Yun, who had arrived earlier than him, the anger in his heart could not be any more intense. Qin Yun had taken first place in the previous competition to kill the demonic beasts. He had thought that it would be a foolproof victory, but who knew that Qin Yun would snatch first place again. The other students blocked the entrance as well. They had previously seen Qin Yun running in the air. After arriving, they had learned that Qin Yun had cultivated the fiery cloud steps to perfection. Only then did they realize that he did not use flying boots like Zhao De. This time, Zhao De lost without saying a word. It was already hard to say if he used flying boots, but now he was even surpassed by someone else's Qinggong. He had no face to say anything more. He could only watch helplessly as Qin Yun went to claim the top-grade profound rank martial art. This is the A Tsunami Art A. It requires the use of inner strength to transform it into vibrating power. If the inner strength is strong enough and you cultivate to the great perfection stage, you can create tsunamis in the sea. President Zhang took out a book and handed it to Qin Yun. Qin Yun took it over and sighed inwardly. Without Yang Shiyu's guidance, it would have been much more difficult for him to cultivate. However, this martial art was very suitable for him, especially when it was used in combination with shock inner force. Are there any more duels for the third round? When do they start? There should be some sort of martial arts competition, right? Qin Yun asked after keeping the tsunami technique. Principal Zhang laughed. No, it's mainly because too many students died last semester in the martial arts competition, so there will be no more martial arts competitions this semester. This ends the competition for the new semester. Quote, the students were secretly thankful that there was not a third round. Otherwise, they would only be jealous of Qin Yun for obtaining the best. Qin Yun, there's only one person in your class. Since Teacher Yang is no longer teaching, you can come to my class next. Zhao Guangwei's face was filled with a cunning and hypocritical smile. I should have the right to choose my own class, right? Qin Yun did not wish to become Zhao Guangwei's student at all. There used to be, but not anymore. This is a new rule that just came out this semester. You must come to my class or else get the hell out of the Hua Spiritual Martial Academy. Zhao Guangwei detested Qin Yun very much. Now, he wanted Qin Yun to join his class. It was obvious that he had ill intentions. When Qin Yun saw how President Zhang remained silent with a helpless expression on his face, he knew that there was nothing he could do. My father wanted you to come to our class because he thought highly of you. Zhao Desui laughed. Don't worry. At that time, I will definitely take good care of you. Qin Yun does not need to go to class 8. Suddenly, Qin Yanghei's voice sounded. The principal of the Hua Spirit Martial School had arrived. When Qin Yun exited the Heaven Punisher Tower, Qin Yang felt incredulous. He had personally seen the hole and only then was he certain that Qin Yun had escaped on his own. Dean Qin, I'm afraid even you are unable to make a decision. This rule was mainly to allow teachers to choose students who they were fond of. This was all for the sake of the students' well-being. This is how our Blue Spirit Star Palace train and nurture their disciples. Zhao Guangwei smugly said as he looked at the gray-robed old man that suddenly flew over. Qin Yang was an old man, but his hair was not completely white. Half of his black hair was white, and the only wrinkles on his face were the wrinkles. However, it was full of vicissitudes of life. He had a small beard on his chin and his pair of deep, sharp eyes were filled with authority as he looked at Qin Yun. Qin Yun had only heard Qin Yanghei's voice last time. This was the first time he had seen him in person. Qin Yun has already stepped into the 6th level of the martial body. There's no need for him to stay in the Hua Lingwu Academy. I will recommend him to the 3 Mysterious Yard. Qin Yanghei's serious face suddenly broke out into a smile. Qin Yun had reached the 6th level of the martial body. When everyone present heard this, they were not the least bit surprised. Xiao Yulin had stepped into the 8th level of the martial body realm. It had to be known that more than half a year ago, Qin Yun had only reached the 4th level of the martial body realm. I don't believe it. Zhao Guangwei suffered a huge blow and refused to admit that it was true. In his heart, his son, Zhao De, was extremely talented. He had a 5 spiritual pulse and was more than half a year old than Qin Yun. However, he was only at the 5th level of the martial body realm. He could not accept the fact that his son was unable to achieve a breakthrough faster than Qin Yun. The 6th level of the martial body mainly cultivates inner strength. Right now, he can freely release his inner strength. After Qin Yang saw Qin Yun, he was certain that it was true. I don't believe it. Use your inner strength to break open my defense. Zhao Guangwei didn't believe it. He activated his martial arts and released a rock shield in front of him. All right. Qin Yun took a few steps forward and arrived in front of the shield made of mud and stone. He released an inner strength and produced a ferocious flame. He punched the stone shield. Bang! The shield was shattered by the raging fire inner strength. The power of the inner strength did not decrease in the slightest. It turned into a ball of fire and rushed towards Zhao Guangwei. Zhao Guangwei never expected Qin Yun's fire inner force to be so terrifying. He thought that his rock shield could block it, so when the fire inner force hit his body, it was too late. Boom! The flame exploded into a ball of purplish golden flames, burning Zhao Guangwei. Qin Yang hastily waved his hand and released a white mist, enveloping Zhao Guangwei's body and extinguishing the flames. Zhao Guangwei was severely injured, and blood trickled out from the corner of his mouth. He had even been burned into a miserable state. He was a martial artist at the 7th level of the martial body, yet he could not withstand one strike from Qin Yun. Many teachers were shocked beyond belief. When Qin Yun was at the 5th level of the martial body, his strength was already on par with a powerful 6th level martial body. Now that he had stepped into the 6th level, if he were to fight desperately, he might not even suffer injuries when fighting a 7th level martial body. Dean, I remember that you said earlier that if I can come out from the Heaven Punisher Tower, you will compensate me. Qin Yun said with a smile. Many people heard it back then. You can't go back on your words. I will do as I say. Follow me. Qin Yong smiled and then leapt into the air with his hands behind his back. Flames rose up from under his feet. It was the great perfection stage of the fiery cloud steps, fiery blaze. Qin Yun also used the flaming cloud steps to chase after him. He looked forward to Qin Yonghe's compensation in his heart. The people of Blue Spirit Star Palace and the Qin Palace were all filled with envy. This was because Qin Yun's strength had increased by a lot. Qin Yong was very strong and very mysterious. No one knew of his origins and everyone believed that the compensation he gave Qin Yun was definitely something good. Chapter 95 Immortal Burial Diagram. Qin Yun followed Qin Yong to a forbidden zone behind the Hua Lingwu courtyard. This area was close to a large mountain in the Cloud Dragon Mountain range. At the foot of one of the giant mountains, there was a cave. Qin Yong led Qin Yun into the cave and into a stone room filled with books. Dean, what are you going to give me? Qin Yun could not help but ask out of curiosity. Qin Yong took out an old, square piece of beast skin, placed it on the table and asked, look at this, what does this looks like? The snow-white beast skin seemed to have been there for a long time, and was about 1 meter in length. Although the surface was old, it was very soft to the touch. One could feel that the surface was quite tough by strongly pinching it. This beast skin came from a very strong demonic beast Euro. The beast skin has been specially refined. It's not simple at all. It's invulnerable to swords and spears, impervious to water and fire. Qin Yun felt it carefully and exclaimed in surprise. Qin Yong did not expect Qin Yun to be able to see so many things. He was slightly alarmed and asked, and then? There are cut marks Euro. It should have been cut out from a large square piece of beast skin. Qin Yun carefully looked at the incision and said with a frown, also, this hide is made from several pieces that have been compressed together. There are traces of spirit inscriptions carved into it Euro. Just what was this thing? The rank of the beast skin is extremely high. It is simply impossible for me to carve spirit markings on it with my carving knife. Quote. After Qin Yong exclaimed, he smiled. You are indeed a genius in the Tao of inscription forging. To tell you the truth, this is a fragment of a map. Quote. Map? What map? They actually used such expensive and rare materials to make it. The surface was snow-white without any traces of drawing, so they should have used some sort of special method to hide it. Qin Yun looked astonished. This map was definitely extraordinary. The map was carved out of dark lines, and I still can't crack it. Qin Yong sighed. I got the map more than 10 years ago, and it was your royal father who gave it to me. My royal father gave it to you. Qin Yun was alarmed as he hurriedly asked, what is the relationship between you and my father? Qin Yong smiled. His eyes became gentle and kind, and sighed. I am your royal father's grandfather, and am also your great-grandfather. Quote. This. How is that possible? Qin Yun's face was filled with shock as he found it unbelievable. He was fairly familiar with the affairs of his own ancestors. Especially his great-grandfather, whose name was Qin Xingqian. He was also one of the first emperors to die in Tianqian and died at the age of 37. Qin Yong said, I ventured into the Cloud Dragon Mountain range very early on and almost died. I was trapped there for dozens of years. Afterwards, I was rescued by the old dean of the Hua Lingwu Academy, who then groomed me to become a new dean. Because at that time, I had already stepped into the Tao of martial arts and no longer held any attachment to the imperial power. I cultivated peacefully and didn't return to the imperial palace. That's why I changed my name. Your imperial father recognized me when he was studying at the Hualing Martial Arts School. He also promised me that he wouldn't tell anyone. Qin Yong sighed. When he tried to break through to the martial Tao realm, because he suffered from chi deviation and suffered severe injuries, he was unable to cure himself, which was why he asked me for help. His injuries were mental trauma, mental derangement. It's much better now. Quote, no wonder he's been unable to take care of me. So it turns out that he can't even protect himself. Qin Yun asked, where is father? Is he feeling better? Quote, Qin Yang shook his head and said, he is currently in closed-door training to heal his injuries. I'm not sure if he can recover. It's good as long as you can forgive him. Back then, the matter of you being crippled also caused him great pain, and it further aggravated his injuries. Quote, Qin Yun nodded and looked at the beast skin. He said, great-grandfather, you want to give me this fragment of the map, right? This belongs to you in the first place. It was precisely because of this piece of beast skin that your mother met your father and died. Qin Yang spoke of this matter with a solemn expression. Qin Yun was taken aback. It was actually related to his mother's death. He looked at Qin Yang in astonishment. He really wanted to know what was going on. Qin Yang said slowly, this map is called the Immortal Burying Scroll. As the meteorite fell, it landed next to a small mountain village and was divided into 4 pieces. Your mother and 3 other women were by the river washing clothes. After the meteorite fell, it caught the attention of the 3 empires. They immediately dispatched people to the small mountain village. Your mother met your father at that time, and they fell in love at first sight. At that time, your father was still the crown prince. Qin Yun also knew that his mother was a commoner. That was why many concubines in the imperial harem envied her. Qin Yang continued, the 2 women who obtained the other fragments of the immortal burying diagram were also taken away by the crown prince of the Tian Qi Empire and Tian Shao Empire respectively, which means, they are now emperors of the 2 countries. Among them, those who went to the kingdom of Tian Qi were not lucky. They became maidservants in the palace, and soon after giving birth to their children, they died as well. As for the woman who went to the heavenly roaring empire, her luck is pretty good. She became an imperial concubine, but her good fortune did not last long. She died a few years after giving birth to her child, just like your mother. Qin Yun's thoughts immediately churned as he asked, what about the other woman? Your grand preceptor. Qin Yanghai's words made Qin Yun's body shudder. The grand preceptor, Xie Euro, will she also die from a curse? Qin Yun asked with a trembling voice. Qin Yang shook his head, that's not true. She is a beast race and wasn't cursed, but she was still affected by some of the demonic arts. That group of people took advantage of the opportunity and framed her in her cultivation. Qin Yun clenched his fists in excitement as he angrily whispered, so it's like that. Qin Yang patted his shoulder and smiled, she will be fine. After all, she has already escaped the curse. Right now, she should only be hiding somewhere to recuperate. Great-grandfather, should I find the other 3 beast skins? Qin Yun asked. Qin Yang continued, as far as I know, the female who went to the Qi Empire to serve as a maid, but because of her outstanding appearance, she had an affair with the Tianqi Emperor, and later gave birth to a baby girl called Qi Milan. And the woman who went to the Heavenly Roar Empire was the mother of Xiao Yulin and Xiao Yuli. Quote, those 2 women were actually the mothers of Qi Milian and Xiao Yulin. This made Qin Yun alarmed yet again. He also understood why he was able to get engaged to Xiao Yulin. It was because his mother knew Xiao Yulin's mother, so their relationship must have been very good. Qin Yun recalled the fact that both he and their mother had been dead for many years. He could not help but sigh and say, do they know about this? Qin Yang shook his head, I'm not too sure either, so I need you to find out for yourself that, your relationship with Qi Mei is not bad. On the other hand, on Xiao Yulin's side it might be difficult. When you crippled Xiao Lang previously, Xiao Tian has already viewed you as a great enemy, and has restricted you from entering the Heavenly Roar Empire. Quote, Qin Yun put away the beast skin with mixed emotions. The Waling Martial Arts School has already been secretly taken over by the Blue Spirit Star Palace. I'm almost in the air. This is good as well. Qin Yang caressed Qin Yun's head and said with a smile, to have a great-grandson like you, I can finally relax and explore the Cloud Dragon mountain range. Great-grandfather, you're leaving. Qin Yun was extremely reluctant because he had once again experienced kinship after so many years. The 9 desolate land is extremely vast, I wish to take a look. Qin Yang sighed as he laughed. When you have my strength in the future, you will have the same thoughts. Chapter 96 Yi Qingfeng. Qin Yun had already matured and was about to head for the Three Mysterious Academy. With his strength, he would definitely be able to stand out and successfully enter the Black Level Martial Academy. Thus, Qin Yang was able to relax and explore the mysterious Cloud Dragon mountain range. Great-grandfather, well, don't you have anything else to give me? Qin Yun scratched his head and said with a chuckle. He felt that since Qin Yang had been the principal for so many years, he would definitely be very rich. If it was earlier, it would have been better. All the resources in my possession have been taken away by the Blue Spirit Star Palace. Back then, the founder of the Lingwu Academy came from the Blue Spirit Star Palace, so I couldn't say much. Qin Yun, who was originally overjoyed, was immediately extremely disappointed. When Qin Yang saw Qin Yun, he laughed heartily. Don't worry, I still have something for you. Take it. Qin Yun took it over and looked at it. It was 50 purple coins, equivalent to 50,000 crystal coins. He kept it with a look of disgust. The legs of the mosquitoes were also meat. It was better than nothing. His disdainful expression caused Qin Yang to scold with a smile. You little brat, are you not an inscriptionist? I want to ask you something. You should not be lacking in martial arts. Inner force cultivation method. Do you want the Qin spirit art? Quote. No need. Qin Yun had the Stellar Sun Heart Sutra and it was much better than Qin Lianfeng's. It allowed him to walk on his own martial arts. He did not lack any martial skills. The tsunami technique he had just obtained was one of the highest grade profound rank skills. Qin Yang took out a letter and said with a smile, take this letter and go to the mysterious marking hall to pass it to Duan Qian. Tell him to arrange for you to go to the Three Profound Academy. There seemed to be a close relationship between the Mysterious Pattern Palace and the Black Level Martial Arts Academy. The Mysterious Pattern Palace would often help the Black Level Martial Arts Academy with their work. Qin Yun followed Qin Yang out of the cave and came to the top of the gigantic mountain. He looked at the 9 scorching suns in the sky. Qin Yanghe's face was filled with yearning as he lightly said, the most mysterious thing is still this 9 suns. Back then, the old headmaster once said that if one could pry into the secrets of the 9 suns, they would be able to obtain the power of the 9 suns. Quote, of course, with my current strength, I would not even dare to think about it. At the edge of the 9 desolate land, we are currently in a dire situation where the spiritual energy and resources are scarce. Because of the environment, we have to pass through the dangerous Cloud Dragon mountain range and head to the Martial Desolate Land. That is where the martial way is flourishing and shining. Great-grandfather, you must be careful inside the Cloud Dragon mountain range. Qin Yun was extremely reluctant as he whispered. I have enough strength, you don't have to worry about me. We'll meet again in the Martial Desolation realm. See you later. Qin Yang laughed out loud. Stepping on the fiery cloud, he disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. Qin Yun was in a depressed mood. After sighing gently, he calmed his mood and bid farewell to President Zhang. He thanked him for his care over the past few days. After that, he left the Lingwu Academy and headed towards the Imperial City's mysterious Pattern Palace. Father, I hope to see you again. Qin Yun thought to himself as he walked through the forest. He really hoped to see his father at Xiao Yulin's and Qin Zhengfeng's engagement ceremony in a few months' time. Qin Yun did not walk on the main road. He chose to walk through the forest for safety's sake. However, after running through the forest for more than 2 hours, he suddenly felt weak waves of spiritual force. He had been extremely sensitive to spiritual force ever since he'd turned into a star. Someone has the intention to kill me. After sensing it, Qin Yun leapt up, broke through the dense foliage and into the sky. Then, he began running with the fire cloud steps. Who could it be that came with me from the Ling Martial Arts School? Intuition told him that he was a person with extremely powerful strength. At least, he was at the 8th level of the martial body realm. Don't even think about escaping. Sure enough, a shout came from the forest and a huge tornado suddenly appeared. A howling tornado appeared, rising to the skies and sweeping up the dust. The world suddenly turned dark. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Violent winds howled, as if hell had suddenly descended upon the world. Many of the 100-meter-tall trees in the forest were uprooted and torn apart along with the sand. It was an extremely horrifying sight. Qin Yun, who had taken to the air, resisted the terrifying attractive force and constantly took steps in midair. However, he could not escape. This guy has the wind and thunder martial spirit, it's too scary. At that instant, Qin Yun was alarmed. He was swept into the heart of the tornado and collided with many of the torn pieces of wood. He was struck by violent bolts of lightning as his body was in extreme pain. A moment after he was dragged into the tornado, he was captured by a middle-aged man in a purple robe. "Brat, it's as easy as flipping my hand to catch you alive." "Ha ha a euro." The purple-robed man laughed heartily as he grabbed Qin Yun by the neck. He infused surges of violent lightning energy into the lightning bolt. "It's you, the queen slut's big brother." Qin Yun immediately recognized the face when he saw it. This was a martial artist at the peak of the 9th level of the martial body. His name was Yi Qingfeng. "You only saw me when you were young, but you still remember me. Haha a euro, you want to fight against our Yi family. You don't even know if you're dead or alive." Quote. Yi Qingfeng grinned fiendishly as he increased his strength. He channeled more lightning energy into Qin Yun's body, causing his body to tremble violently as he screamed. At the moment of his despair, he suddenly sensed two extremely familiar faint auras. However, he could not think of who they might be. "Who is it?" Yi Qingfeng suddenly turned his head and saw a black shadow pounce over. It was a huge tiger covered in black scales, its speed as fast as lightning. As the huge black tiger pounced over, it bit towards Yi Qingfeng's neck. Yi Qingfeng made an extremely quick evasion, but a large chunk of flesh was still bitten off his chest, and a large chunk of flesh was torn off his shoulders by a pair of sharp tiger claws. He was at the 9th level of the martial body realm, yet he could not withstand the attack of this demonic beast. This kind of vicious beast was absolutely terrifying. Even when Qin Yun landed on the ground and fell limply to the ground, he was petrified with fear. He recalled what Ding Tianchun had said, that a truly powerful demon beast could even destroy an empire. Steel Kailan tiger, but it has turned black. Qin Yun recognized the Kailan steel tiger's friendly gaze and suddenly stood up. He took out an inferior giant spirit king hammer and fiercely hammered the fallen Yi Qingfeng with the falling star style. The shock inner force and the flame inner force merged perfectly and violently and smoothly poured into the king hammer, activating the inner strength and penetrating Yi Qingfeng's chest. That strand of inner strength left a large, bloody hole in Yi Qingfeng's chest. After which, it continued to pass through the ground, creating a deep, small well on the ground. When the half-dead Yi Qingfeng saw Qin Yun gently caress the head of the steel tiger, great resentment and indignation arose. Since he had stepped into the 9th level of the martial body realm in his middle years, his talent could be said to be superb. Now that the Blue Spirit Star Palace had descended, it was highly likely that he would be promoted to the martial Dao realm in the next few years. But now, he had fallen here. He could not help but hate his sister very much. Why did he have to provoke Qin Yun? Yi Qingfeng had died, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. A euro. "You saved my life again." Qin Yun rubbed the lingu that had its head lowered and was filled with deep emotions. Previously, he had only casually let go of the steel tiger, but he had been saved twice because of this. "Have you advanced to become a 9th level demonic beast?" Qin Yun remembered that Yuan Yanying had followed the lingu steel tiger back then. A euro. He immediately looked around and saw a young girl wearing beast skin clothing floating over. She looked slovenly, but was extremely beautiful. This young girl was Yuan Yanying. Chapter 97 Certificate of the Charm Magician. Yuan Yanying had a refreshing smile on her face. Her hair was a little messy and her clothes were extremely rough. However, she looked so simple and natural while also had a trace of boldness on her. The Yuan Yanying in front of him was completely different from the Yuan Yanying who was full of scheming and greed for vanity. "You've changed again. I don't recognize you again," Qin Yun said with a smile. "The current you is many times more beautiful than the past. Only when one's heart is beautiful will one be beautiful." Yuan Yanying smiled lightly and said, "This is all thanks to Brother Yun waking me up and bringing me onto the right path. Otherwise, I would just be a vulgar woman who covets vanity." The current Yuan Yanying could tell that Qin Yun did not covet the title of Crown Prince and Emperor. In comparison to his immense strength, it was negligible. Right now, the dead Yi Qingfeng had such a high position and was also at the 9th level of the martial body realm. However, in the face of great power, he could not even withstand a single blow. No matter how powerful you are, what's the use? In the end, he still suffered a miserable death before absolute strength. Qin Yun admired Yuan Yanying's sun-like smile as he said with relief, "I'm happy for you to be able to struggle out of that quagmire." Guilt appeared in Yuan Yanying's clear eyes as she sighed lightly. "The reason I was able to cheer up was because I had you. But, when you were trapped in a desperate situation, you didn't have anyone to help you, you were all alone. Quote, at that time, you needed encouragement and care the most. However, I have treated you like that. I am truly sorry." Her clear and beautiful eyes were filled with tears. She was feeling incomparably guilty and heartbroken. His heart ached over the many years of loneliness he had to face the difficulties. Don't mention the past anymore. Come, let's drink a few mouthfuls and forget all the unpleasantness of the past. Qin Yun laughed as he took out 2 jugs of wine. Yuan Yanying grabbed the jug and drank it all in one gulp. Her face was slightly flushed, and then she smashed the jug to the ground. She laughed out loud and said, "It's your turn." Qin Yun smiled and downed the wine in a single gulp. He also shattered the wine jug. Then the two of them smiled at each other and returned to being friendly. Qin Yun looked at the crouching steel tiger and asked, "Yanying, what's wrong with the steel tiger? He actually broke through as well." Quote, Yuan Yanying nodded and said, "When I first saw it, I realized that I could communicate with it, so I taught it the cultivation methods of humans. I never thought that it would break through and become a rank 9 beast. Perhaps because of its martial spirit, its appearance turned black." Quote, become black. Qin Yun recalled that his oscillating martial spirit was also black. He could not help but suspect that the Lingu tiger's martial soul was black as well. After it broke through, it said that we must come see you, because I don't know when we'll meet again. Yuan Yanying stroked the Qilin steel tiger's fur. "We were waiting for you in the forest for a few days." Qin Yun nodded as he looked into the steel tiger's eyes and asked, "What are your plans for the future?" Yuan Yanying said, "We will pass through the Cloud Dragon mountain range. It said it could do it. Big brother Yun, do you want to come with us?" Quote, after hearing this, Qin Yun did have a very strong thought, but he still had many important things to do. He shook his head. "I still have many things I haven't done. Since you guys want to go, you have to be careful on the road. This is for you." He passed his 2 lightning mark bracers to Yuan Yanying. This would be of great help. Moreover, to him, it was very easy to refine, and even better. Yuan Yanying also gave him a big bundle inside which was the shedding armor of the steel tiger. There were more than 10 of these, and as a class 8 demonic beast's armor was very precious. "Brother Yun, take care. We will definitely meet again." Yuan Yanying hugged Qin Yun for a moment before mounting the steel tiger and ran away. She had experienced what happened before and had grown up. She had become very strong and had found her future goal. Qin Yun watched Yuan Yanying leave and sighed emotionally. He was feeling elated. He burned Yi Qingfeng's corpse, using light inscriptions to heal his wounds as he ran. When he arrived at the entrance of the imperial city, it was already dark and his injuries were much better. The Yi clan lost a martial body level 9 cultivator this time, so their losses were very heavy. "Who told you to provoke me?" Qin Yun looked at the entrance of the imperial city through the darkness of night and walked in quickly. €1. Qin Yun came to the imperial city once again. Although he had grown up in the city, he was extremely unfamiliar with it. After entering the royal capital, he felt a little unease in his heart. Luckily, he still had to head to the mysterious Pattern Palace. Only by coming to the mysterious Pattern Palace would he feel at ease. To him, this was a safer place than Waling Wu. In a suite in the main hall of the mysterious Mark's palace, Duan Qian had hurried over after learning of Qin Yun's arrival. When Qin Yun saw Duan gone, he hurriedly stood up to greet him. Then, he handed him a letter. Just by looking at it, Duan Gan guessed that Qin Yun had been recommended to the 3 Mystical Academy. It meant that he had a cultivation base at the 6th level of the martial body realm. Although he was well aware of Qin Yun's talent, he never expected to break through so quickly. The last time you left, I knew that sooner or later you would bring this thing to me. I just didn't expect it to come so fast. Duan Qian opened the letter and looked at it, then nodded and smiled. Qin Yun smiled mischievously. Grandpa Duan, I'm not here only to go to the Three Profound Academy. I have another important matter to attend to. Duan Qian was extremely curious. After thinking for a while, he asked, what important matter? Qin Yun took out the giant spirit king hammer and gently waved it a few times. He said with a triumphant smile, the elementary tattoo master exam. Duan Qian stared at the hammer with his eyes wide open. After a moment of shock, he sighed with a smile. He could tell at a glance that it was the giant spirit king hammer. Although it wasn't a royal grade spirit weapon, the giant spirit king hammer that could refine an inferior grade spirit weapon could still be considered formidable. Did you really refine this? As a prodigy, Duan Qian had seen the blueprints for the giant spirit king hammer and knew that it would be extremely difficult to forge it. Even though it was a low-grade spiritual weapon, it was definitely not something that a rookie like Qin Yun could forge. The material I used wasn't too good. After all, this is my first time refining it. I'll use it first. Qin Yun handed the hammer to Duan Qian. Duan Qian took it over and frowned as he carefully examined it. He would occasionally pour inner force into it to check, sometimes shaking his head, and sometimes nodding his head. After looking at it for a moment, he slowly said, the forging process of the materials is extremely outstanding. The materials are indeed not good enough, but they can be considered outstanding amongst the low-rank spirit artifacts. If you want to find fault, you can only say that the inscription patterns are not natural. This is also because you are inexperienced, but you are better than many of the older artificers. When can we start the examination? After Qin Yun became an elementary rank symbol master, he would be able to freely enter and leave the mysterious pattern palace. He would be able to enjoy luxurious suites for free. He would also receive preferential treatment when purchasing materials. If he became a true primary level inscription master, his conditions would definitely be better. The mysterious marking hall was everywhere, and it would be extremely convenient. Duan Gan said, the inscription master must be able to create spirit artifacts, create talismans, and set up formations. I still don't know about your ability to set up arrays, but if you want to test, it's just to test your ability to set up arrays. Quote, in the Heaven Punisher Tower, Qin Yun had relied on setting up a 9-sun spirit convergence array to escape. This was not a problem for him. He confidently said, all right, I will begin to set up a formation now. Duan Qian took out a square piece of beast skin that was about a meter in width from his storage item and said, carve a formation on top of it. The beast skin formation was one of the easiest formations to store. Qin Yun squatted down and took out his carving knife. He began inscribing spirit patterns. He wanted to carve the simplest water-gathering array. The purpose of the water-gathering array was to place the barrel in the middle of the array and then activate the array. Then, it would be able to gather the 9-sun spirit energy and condense the spirit water into the bucket. Spirit water could mainly be used to activate or to refine artifacts. It could also be used in medicinal baths, so it was a rather common thing, so formations like this were often used. Chapter 98 Alchemy Competition. The spirit inscriptions required for the water-gathering array were all basic spirit inscriptions. It was relatively easy to obtain, so Qin Yun had mastered these spirit inscriptions very early on. He had set up a great formation like the 9-sun spirit convergence array before, so it wasn't difficult for him to set up a simple water-gathering array now. He would be able to set it up very soon. After carving the spirit lines on the beast skin, Qin Yun only needed to lay down the purple crystal coin or an ordinary crystal coin according to the marked location to activate the array's energy. At the side, Duan Qian was watching with secret surprise. This was because Qin Yun was extremely quick and skilled at drawing spirit formations, and he also had extremely good imprints. He nodded and praised, this water-gathering formation is very good. Qin Yun activated the array and soon, sparkling and translucent spiritual water condensed and dripped onto the wooden basin in the middle. You have passed the Inscription Master certification. I'll make you a primary Inscription Master badge right now. Duan Qian laughed. You're the youngest inscription master our hall has ever seen. Qin Yun only smiled slightly and did not seem excited. Duan Gan took out his emblem and began carving Qin Yun's name. He was extremely excited. A 15-year-old inscription master, even in the history of this region, never once had there been a person like this before, let alone the Hall of Inscriptions. When he saw the calm smile on Qin Yun's face, he sighed inwardly. After 5 years of hard work, not only did the crippled crown prince step into the 6th level of the martial body realm, but he was also an inscription master. Such talent was something only Xiao Yulin could match up to. Qin Yun, in 2 days, our mysterious pattern palace will host an alchemy competition. You should attend as well. Duan Gan had already engraved the emblem and had Qin Yun bind it with blood. Qin Yun asked while dripping blood, "Alchemy tournament? I've never heard of it." Quote. Duan Qian laughed, "You might not know, but among the inscription masters, this is an extremely famous competition. When the time comes, all sorts of famous masters will be participating, so you must definitely come." What's the main competition? Qin Yun's heart stirred as he hurriedly asked. Forging. It was to forge the most basic iron into spiritual iron. If it's a high-level inscription master, the quality of the spirit iron forged will be better. Duan Qian laughed. Master Wei has already won the championship twice in a row. Master Wei is participating too. Qin Yun's eyes widened. Although Master Wei was a treacherous and malicious person, he did indeed have the skill to forge artifacts. If not, there would not be so many people worshipping him just because he was bragging. Duan Qian nodded. Only inscriptionists can participate. You are already an inscription master, so you can participate. This was the once-a-decade grand meeting of the mysterious Mark's Palace. Master Wei only became famous because he got first place in 2 competitions. Quote. Qin Yun nodded slightly. If it was a martial arts competition or something like that, the person he was competing with would only be at the 5th or 6th level of the martial body. He had confidence in winning. With a person like Master Wei participating in this alchemy competition, he did not have much confidence. Upon seeing Qin Yun's lack of confidence, Duan Gan said with a smile, "It's only smelting spirit iron. You are not much worse than them." Quote. Qin Yun had quite a good foundation in forging. However, he had never compared himself to anyone else, so he did not know how good he was. After this competition, I can also have a more detailed understanding of the other inscription masters. Qin Yun nodded. €1. Over the next 2 days, Qin Yun practiced smelting spirit iron. In the process of smelting spirit iron, the ordinary iron ore would first be placed into a furnace with alchemy engravings on it. The engraver himself had released the flame, and then he would take out the burned iron ore and repeatedly beat it with his hammer. During the forging process, the impurities would be removed and the inner strength would be infused to forge spirit iron. 1,000 jin of iron ore needed to be refined into a thumb-sized spiritual iron ingot. This was the standard for the size of a spiritual iron ore that had been passed down since ancient times. If you need a bigger piece of spirit iron, then use multiple small spirit iron ingots to make a larger piece. Qin Yun had struck many of these spiritual metals in the Hall of Wonders long ago. Finally, he fused the spirit iron with the demon beast bone and forged it into higher-grade bone steel. To an inscription master, alchemy and forging were skills that had to be proficient in. The heavier the same size of iron ingots, the higher the quality of the ingots. The alchemy competition should be based on this standard, right? Qin Yun weighed the spirit iron ingot he had made. A small piece weighed more than 10 pounds. It was 2 to 3 pounds heavier than the spirit iron ingot he had bought at the Hall of Wonders. After 2 days of blacksmithing practice, his confidence had increased by quite a bit. With the purple gold fire, he could also improve a lot when smelting metals. €1. Mysterious pattern manor was bathed in the warm morning sun. A new day had arrived. Today was the day of the once-a-decade alchemy competition. The day to be held. Inside the dignified and solemn hall, over 50 inscription masters were standing in a neat row. They were all inscriptionists from several countries, and most of them were elderly. There were only about a dozen middle-aged people, and not a single one of them was young. The inscriptionists were usually extremely arrogant, but when they arrived at the inscription hall, their arrogance was retracted. The alchemy competition that was held once every 10 years was extremely important to them. If he could get first place, not only would he gain more fame, he would also receive rewards. A reward that even an inscription master would take seriously was definitely extraordinary. Especially this year, it was said that the Blue Spirit Star Palace would send someone to participate. I think there are more than 20 inscriptionists in Blue Spirit Star Palace. An old man said in a low voice. Not much. It looks like the Blue Spirit Star Palace is the same. There are only 20 people in the entire Star Palace. Another old man disapproved. Master Wei said with a sneer, the ones sent by Blue Spirit Star Palace to participate in the alchemy competition are all between 20 and 30 years old. How many young inscriptionists can there be in our countries? Not a single one. Quote, not a single one. This caused all the middle-aged and elderly inscriptionists to suddenly feel a huge difference in strength. Therefore, we cannot lose to those young people. It will be very humiliating. A black-clothed elder laughed. Blue Spirit Star Palace's inscription master had arrived. A group of people walked in a majestic manner and were all dressed in blue. Although they were all expressionless, their arrogance was obvious. On the other hand, an older man looked at Master Wei with a smile and nodded his head. Master Wei also walked over with a smile and greeted Zhang Zan with a polite greeting. Everyone was secretly envious and jealous when they saw how good his relationship was with the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace. Master Wei looked at a young man who was about 17 or 18 years old and said with a smile, I presume that this is the Star Nangong clan's genius with strange engravings, Liang Shujin. To be able to become a primary inscription master at the age of 19, that was truly admirable. Today, I am fortunate to finally be able to see young hero Liang in person. He is actually so handsome and has an extraordinary bearing. He truly deserves his reputation. Liang Shujin smiled, full of pride, and replied, Master Wei is also a master with strange patterns that many elders admire. I have heard a lot about him. As they were chatting, Master Wei suddenly saw Qin Yun walk in. Immediately, his smile froze. Isn't that Qin Yun? When an old tattooist saw Qin Yun, he shouted in alarm. Everyone immediately turned to look at the door, and upon seeing a gray-robed, handsome youth walk in, the hall immediately fell silent. Chapter 99 Falling Fire. Qin Yun slowly walked in. Although he was dressed in simple attire, he was elegant, decent and full of spirit. He was confident and not proud. He had a calm that didn't match his age and was very attractive. Everyone's gaze immediately gathered on the bronze badge on his left chest. This was an emblem that only inscriptionists could have. On top of the emblem was a gem. It was an elementary level inscription master. Everyone knew that Qin Yun was only 15.5 years old. He was about 4 years younger than Liang Shujin, and he had already become a beginner level inscription master. All the old inscriptionists present were all amazed. The general director, Duan Gan, also appeared. He smiled and said, there are quite a few people participating this time. There's a total of 80 people. Chief Steward, is Qin Yun really an inscription master? Master Wei could not accept this. Duan Qian laughed, Qin Yun can craft talismans. You witnessed it for yourself. After he stepped into the 6th level of the martial body realm, he was able to refine an inferior grade spirit weapon and then set up a formation. The fact that Qin Yun was at the 6th level of the martial body realm was something everyone knew. It was already unbelievable to begin with. Especially the people in Blue Spirit Star Palace. They were certain that it would take Qin Yun many years to reach the 6th level of the martial body if he failed to cultivate the soul scripture. However, not too long after, Qin Yun had broken through to the 6th level of the martial body realm and slapped them in the face. At that moment, the most unacceptable thing was that Qin Yun had actually become a beginner inscription master. Within the Blue Spirit Star Palace, to be able to proudly reach the heavens at the age of 19 when one became a primary inscription master, it could be seen just how rare this young tattoo master was. However, Qin Yun, the abandoned prince, had grown to such a terrifying state in 5 years. Everyone wanted to know how much suffering he had endured in order to reach such a state. Liang Shujin gritted his teeth. Due to Qin Yun's appearance, his limelight had been taken away. Not bad, not bad. It's also good to join in on the fun. If you want to get a good ranking, then don't count on it. Master Wei forced a smile. His son had died an unknown death. As for Qin Yun, who he hated the most, he had become a beginner-level inscription master. His heart was bleeding with hatred. Qin Yun only gave a faint smile. Duan Gan said, "Today's competition is different from previous competitions. This time, we need everyone to forge a piece of 5,000 kilograms of iron into a spirit strip. Notice that it's 10,000 jin of iron, not spirit iron." Qin Yun frowned tightly as the other inscriptionists cried out in surprise. Iron, of course, was iron used by ordinary people. This type of iron was also smelted from iron ore. Different from spirit iron, ordinary iron did not have spirit energy, and it was also not tough enough. There were many impurities. It wasn't impossible to forge iron into spirit iron, but the process was very difficult. Furthermore, it would be extremely difficult to turn 10,000 jin into the size of a thumb just by thinking about it. Isn't that a bit difficult? A Star Palace man asked. Duan Qian said with a smile, "Our mysterious pattern palace knew that your blue spirit Star Palace wanted to come, so we took out an extremely precious item as our first prize. That's why the difficulty has increased by a lot." Everyone began to curse in their hearts. Clearly, the rules of the competition had been changed by the Hall of Wonders. The Blue Spirit Star Palace sent young people who weren't particularly skilled. The more difficult the competition, the less chance they would have to obtain it. General Director, this means that the reward of first place will definitely not disappoint us. Master Wei smiled and said, "Can you tell me first? Then we'll decide to register." Quote, forming a spirit iron that was the size of a thumb and weighing 10,000 jin was an extremely difficult task. This group of inscription masters normally wouldn't do this kind of hard work, especially the older generation inscription masters. They would hand forging spirit iron to their subordinates, or directly purchase it. A cluster of fallen flame. As Duan Qian's words came out, all the inscription masters in the hall revealed fanatical joy. Qin Yun's heart was palpitating with excitement. In the legends, it was said that the fallen flame martial spirit descended from the sky. If it was successfully merged, then the martial spirit could be promoted to a heavenly flame martial spirit. Seeing the shocked expression on everyone's face, Duan Gan laughed. "Actually, the fallen fire isn't as amazing as the legends say. It can't make people immediately possess a divine fire martial spirit, and could only help their martial spirit advance one rank. For example, the ability to upgrade the gold fire martial spirit to the platinum fire martial spirit, and so on. Even so, that was still very good." Qin Yun looked at the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace. They also wanted the fallen fire so badly. In other words, such a thing was extremely rare in Blue Spirit Star Palace. Is there any difference between this and the Soulflight Stone? Qin Yun himself had the violet gold flying spirit stone. Duan Qian answered, "There are big differences. For example, the golden soul soaring stone can only help the fire martial spirit advance to gold rank. There is a certain limit, and the benefit is that it can help the martial spirit advance. On the other hand, fallen fire is different. It can raise a fire attribute martial spirit of any rank by a level. Now that you have a purple gold fire martial spirit, if you were to increase your power by another level, what would happen?" Everyone took a deep breath. A purple gold ranked martial spirit was already considered a top-grade martial spirit. They wanted to know the answer, but they did not want to see Qin Yun's purple gold fire martial spirit increase. "You can decide whether you want to sign up or not." Duan Qian chuckled. When Qin Yun saw everyone's expression, he knew that the registration fee would definitely not be low. Furthermore, he did not have much crystal coins on him. 500,000 crystal coins, right? Master Wei was the first to walk up. If his fire martial spirit could be upgraded, his strength would also be improved by a large amount. Not to mention 500,000 crystal coins, it would even be worth 5 million. 800,000 this year, and minors won't have to pay. Duan Gan said. The adult was 16 years old and Qin Yun was only 15 years old. Therefore, there was no need for the registration fee. This made him heave a sigh of relief. There had always been such a rule, so no one else could say anything. 800,000. Master Wei was rather generous. Duan Qian smiled as he received the 800 purple coins. The other inscriptionists also began to pay their registration fees, but not a single one of the people from Blue Spirit Star Palace came up. Can we wait? The leader of the Star Palace said with an embarrassed look on his face. The arrogance that he had when they came in had also disappeared. This was because everyone could tell that they did not bring enough crystal coins. The registration fee was 800,000 people per person, and was not something that these youngsters could afford. There were 20 people here, and that alone was 16 million crystal coins. If one were to add in the registration fee for other old weirdos, it would be an enormous sum. Even if the Hall of Marking handed over the fallen fire, it wouldn't be much of a loss. Are you really sure that you can get first place? Although his smile was extremely amiable, it revealed an intangible sense of ridicule. Among us 20, one of us will definitely get first place. After those from Blue Spirit Star Palace felt the taunt, they shouted, "Can we wait here for a while? I'll get someone to send some crystal coins over." Duan Qian was still full of smiles as he said, "I can have you all sign up first, then we can start the competition in the afternoon." All the inscription masters were extremely envious of Qin Yun. To be able to participate in the competition free of charge, even if they could not obtain first place, they could at least broaden their horizons. All right, the registration for this year's alchemy competition will end in the afternoon. Duan Gan announced. Chapter 100 The Gate of Wonders. The registration for the alchemy competition had ended, meaning that the Blue Spirit Star Palace would be unable to send out their old engravers. As for the young ones, they had already signed up. If they didn't pay the registration fee, it wouldn't be easy for them to leave the hall. Duan Qian smiled sinisterly, causing all the old weirdos to be secretly amazed. The Hall of Marking had actually set up Blue Spirit Star Palace just like that. Master Wei was very happy because the one with the highest chance of winning this time's competition was him. From the look of the joy on his face, it seemed as if he had already obtained the fallen flame. He had a platinum flame martial spirit. If he could obtain it, he would be able to advance to purple gold. The other old engravers became worried when they thought of this. The inscription masters all took out their smelting furnaces and forging platforms. The youths of Blue Spirit Star Palace all had storage spirit artifacts. It was obvious that their status was much higher than that of some so-called genius martial artists. Qin Yun's furnace was without a doubt the worst. It was only a half-spirit weapon. The other people's furnaces were at least a low-grade spirit weapon, or even a mid-grade spirit weapon. This also attracted bursts of ridicule from the other inscription masters. Duan Gan said, "The time of the competition is 4 hours. Only 4 hours. Everyone from Blue Spirit Star Palace stared with widened eyes, as if they were frightened. Liang Shujin said in an extremely arrogant tone, "Isn't this competition time too short?" Duan Qian looked at Master Wei and asked, "Master Wei, do you think it's short?" Master Wei said with a frown, "It's indeed a little short, but since it's a rule set by your mysterious Mark's palace, we'll just follow it." Duan Qian looked at the discontented Liang Shujin and said with a smile, "In the past, the duration of the competition was only 2 hours, so this time's 4 hours can't be considered too short." Qin Yun's heart was heavy as he felt an immense pressure. He had nearly wanted to say that the time was short, but thinking of the competition that was prepared for the old apothecaries, he could only accept it. At noon, several old men came from Blue Spirit Star Palace. They were old inscriptionists from both the East, West, South, and North palaces. When the youths of Blue Spirit Star Palace saw them arrive, they quickly came up and greeted them. "Your mysterious marking hull is still the same as before. It is as treacherous as ever, and your nature cannot be changed." An old man from the Star Nangong Palace said with a cold snort. He took out a furnace and a forging hammer and said, "Both furnaces and forging hammers are high-grade spiritual tools. Wrong, take them." The elders of Blue Spirit Star Palace all took out their high-grade spiritual tools and gave them to the juniors. This made Master Wei and the others envious. Of course, Master Wei's furnace and forging hammer were also very good. Of all the people present, only Qin Yun's furnace was the worst. Half a spirit treasure. Once again, the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace mocked him. "Qin Yun, your inscription talent is pretty good. Do you have any ideas about coming to our Eastern Palace in the future? I am an outer elder of the Eastern Palace's Chi-Wei sect. My name is Rong Shalwa. An elder came to Qin Yun's side and asked gently. Qin Yun also saw that there were no Eastern Palace disciples among the Blue Spirit Star Palace disciples that were participating. Even the Eastern Palace's elder of the mysterious pattern sect, Wang Shalwa, was only here to join in on the fun. There's only you in the East Palace's mysterious gate, and how many years have you been down for? You don't even have a furnace or hammer you can take out now, you still want to recruit people. Furthermore, Qin Yun only has a bloodline. It's unknown how far he can go on the path of martial arts. The elder from Nangong sneered. I thought you guys said that it would be difficult for him to step into the 6th level of the martial body realm. However, he is now at the 6th level of the martial body. Perhaps he will surpass you in no time at all. Quote. Another old man sneered and said, there is not a single person in the inner court of the mysterious gate. Only you, an outer elder, can barely be considered as a member of the mysterious gate. And you, until now, have never been able to pass the inner sect examination. Even if you want to take Qin Yun in as your disciple, he can only blindly follow you. Quote. At the mention of this examination, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh. With a sorrowful and painful expression, he then left in desolation. It was unusual for him to be here. An old man sneered, this old fellow's 3 sons and 2 grandsons all lost their lives during the entrance exam of the mysterious gate. The entrance examination of the East Palace's mysterious pattern gate was the hardest and most terrifying. It was a narrow escape, and this was also the reason why the East Palace's mysterious pattern gate had fallen. This has caused those precious mysterious patterns to remain uninherited. Quote. Qin Yun looked at the lonely back of Elder Wang and was slightly moved. Suddenly, he had an idea to give it a try. The mysterious gate sounded very mysterious. For many years, no one had taken care of it. It was as if it was sealed up by dust. However, he needed to have a certain level of strength before he could go. He planned to cultivate in the Star Martial Arts Academy before considering further. The competition was going to take place in the main hall. With Duan Qian and the other old men of Blue Spirit Star Palace watching from the sidelines, no one could cheat. Duan Qian began ordering people to move the iron onto the platform and place it next to each of the inscriptionists. Each of these 100 kilograms of iron was worth 100 crystal pieces, and all of them looked very rough. They were stacked next to the inscription master. After being refined by an inscription master, it could turn into spirit iron, smoothly absorb inner strength, and become even more tenacious. This year's alchemy competition will now begin. Duan Qian announced loudly while striking a large copper gong. From the start of the match, the mysterious pattern palace was filled with steaming heat. All of the inscription masters began to pour their flames into the furnace. A good furnace could not only strengthen the flame of an inscription master, but could also absorb spiritual energy and enhance it further. Allegedly, there were some high-level smelting furnaces that could even enhance the flame of an inscription master by 10 times. Qin Yun's semi-spirit artifact furnace only had alchemy inscriptions carved onto it. After absorbing the flames, these spirit patterns would be able to release even more scorching flames, and would also be a type of spirit pattern used to strengthen the flames. It was a good thing that he had the purple gold fire. Otherwise, he would have fallen behind even more. Because the furnaces were all high-grade spirit artifacts, the 100 jin of iron were all burnt red in an instant. Afterwards, they took out the furnace and began to forge. Bang 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 almost at the same time, the sound of a hammer striking red iron resounded in the great hall. Only Qin Yun had yet to begin. This made him realize the difference in the level of his spirit artifacts. Even though his flame grade was very strong and his alchemy markings were high-quality spirit markings, he was still far behind others. That's the only way. Qin Yun frowned secretly as he released his inner strength into flames. It poured into the furnace with a huff sound. This method could indeed increase the power of fire rapidly, but there was one big drawback, which was the high rate of consumption of internal energy. Qin Yun did not want to fall behind by too much, so he used such a method. However, he still had something to rely on. This was because he had 2 inner yuan and the 9 yang spirit. The inner Yuan also had a primordial spirit that could quickly absorb the 9 yang qi into his body. Qin Yun is going all out. He probably won't be able to hold on for long after using his inner strength to form fire. It will consume a lot of his inner strength when forging in the future. An old man from the blue spirit Nangong said. It's time for them to take out the flag array. Another old man said. Liang Shujin was the youngest of the inscription masters. His internal energy storage was far inferior to others, so he first took out more than 20 small flags and placed them around him to form a flag formation. It was used to strengthen the absorption of 9 suns energy. Qin Yun was extremely envious. Flag formation was an extremely brilliant method of setting up the array. The process of refining the array was extremely complicated. Not only did the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace have a flag array, but also those of Master Wei and the others.